Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
It's amazing to meet you. It is simply extraordinary. Maybe this will all make sense if I explain who I am. My name is Dr. Ellie Staple, and I am a psychiatrist. My work concerns a particular type of delusion of grandeur. It's a growing field. I specialize in those individuals who believe that they are podcasts.
That's what you wanted to do.
I did.
First name Mr. Last name Podcast.
I would do first name. Oh, no, that's what I would do.
You would do the thing I just said?
Right, I was thinking, like, would I do first name Pod? But no, you want to do first name Mr. Last name.
Yeah, Mr. is... Yeah.
Mr. Podcast. They called me Mr. Pod.
Wait,
Remember
sorry.
the kids? Remember the kids, David?
Let me put on my MP tie pin, my jeweled MP tie pin.
David, I have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the kids?
They called him Mr. Glass.
Because of the kids, David. I always knew because of the kids.
They called me Mr. Glass!
That is one of my favorite ending monologues on cinema.
I think it's great.
I used to know that thing by heart.
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Ben is already angry. It's already...
No, he was angry last night when we made him see Glass.
I wasn't mad, but I'm not as jazzed as you two.
You're not as glassed as us.
And where you saw it in the great state of New Jersey?
I didn't make it to Jersey,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Oh, I want to read some of your texts.
What?
You were doing bits about how movie theaters work in New Jersey. Where
Oh,
you
yeah,
said
my
they,
local theater.
Let me
Right, they give out laser pointers
Yes.
when you buy a ticket so that they encourage disruption of the movie.
Yes.
The entire theater fell off of a truck. The projectionist is a sandwich.
These are all true facts.
Just reading out the text thread from the other day.
Didn't make it to Jersey. I saw it at Williamsburg Cinemas.
Oh, a truly bad theater.
Yeah, I
one
hate
of the
it.
worst. Yeah.
And I don't know. My initial
How was your
take.
crowd? How was your crowd? Like
Pretty.
was it full?
No, it was like half full.
That theater. Have you've been to that theater?
I have.
It is like the last theater that was built in the city before the sort of like theater should be kind of fancy
Yes.
wave hit.
Yes, the very
And
last one.
It is. I saw Bumblebee there, and literally the entire movie was like masked wrong, and like Haley Steinfeld's like forehead was cropped off.
Right.
It was so bad.
Well, and to your point, like every other theater that opened around that time in the pre-fancy era was
Right.
owned by a major chain,
Sure.
and those chains
They're
are now
they're
one by
vamping
one
them up.
plussing
Yeah.
up. So Williamsburg's like this lone orphan that's like, we're just like never going to be good, right?
We just like we don't have the arty movies. We just have like Glass. You want to see Glass? Come see Glass.
I did.
Yeah, I saw Draft Day at that theater.
Hey!
Starring you.
Hey, starring me.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something crazy that I just want to bring up now because it's even crazier with hindsight?
Sure.
I have very low billing in that movie.
Sure.
I
remember I stayed behind to take a picture of your title card.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, do you have a split card with Josh Pence?
I believe I have a split card with two other people. It might be me and Pence and someone else.
Okay.
But I was number 5 on the call sheet for that movie, ahead of Chadwick Boseman.
Mm-hmm. Brag.
I'm just saying, I want to just point that out because it is truly the last time that will ever happen.
You think you're not going to outdo Chad Boseman again?
On Black Panther 2, this is the podcast where I'm going to break the exclusive that I'm in preliminary talks for Black Panther 2.
Very preliminary.
Right.
Deeply preliminary.
Deeply preliminary in the sense that I've been sending them some texts.
Was it
just going, "Let's
2013
talk."
or 2014 that draft? 2014,
I think
right?
it was a 2014 because I believe we shot it in the 2013.
Yeah. All right.
It's sat on the shelf for a little while, right? Because they tried to team it up with the actual draft day, right?
Did it come out near draft day?
Maybe once draft day happened. This,
You
of
know
course,
what?
is a podcast about draft day. This is our 200th episode of Blank Check, and we're finally doing it. We're talking about draft day. It's drafting the draft.
We should talk about draft. It came out in April. I think that's when the NFL draft is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember a big thing they explained was like, this is the year that
Yeah,
Kevin
it's
comes
April.
back. And
Right.
January is Jack Ryan Shido recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like February was that, what was the McGee movie where it was like sort of his Taken?
Yeah, the assassin movie.
Him
I
and
forget what
Haley
it's called.
Steinfeld.
Yeah.
And then they were like, and then draft day at that point, it's a victory lap. It's a home run. America's all in on Kevin again.
Who was saying this?
Everybody.
Everybody? Are you sure it was
This is
everybody?
like what the marketing departments and the
I
producers were
understand.
saying. They were like, we're going to come out last and everyone's going to be so back on Kevin. Because it was the year after Hatfields and McCoys,
Uh-huh.
which then weirdly got like the highest ratings in the history of television. And everyone's like, no, let's put it back in movies again.
You have a 3-way split card with Pence
Uh-huh.
and David Ramsey.
Of course, the great David Ramsey,
Who's that?
who's on Arrow, and he plays one of the guys in the office, in the front office.
Okay.
It's him, it's Wade Williams,
Oh, that
and
guy.
Tim Simons.
He's the like the Alfred of Arrow now.
Right.
Yeah.
Riggle, I
he's-
want to say, plays the role
Diggle.
of Riggle.
Diggle.
I was
Diggle.
close.
Yeah, he's
He
fun
plays
on Arrow.
Rob Riggle on Arrow?
Yeah, he's Rob Riggle. Yeah. He was in the Marines and what did a season on SNL.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do Rob Riggle's life.
That's a weird one.
Riggle?
One season of SNL.
One season of SNL. Then he was on The Daily Show, and that was when it sort of like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because this was something I was talking about with friends recently. The Hangover,
Uh-huh.
hit comedy, 10
Big-
years old at this
Big
point.
hit. Yeah.
Um,
Very weird that movie's 10 years old.
I know. No famous line from it. You know what I mean? Like not a movie with like a famous line that
That's a really interesting point.
like, you know, usually the big hit comedies, you know, they're these lines that sort of just get like written to the zeitgeist.
Yeah, but
And I think the biggest line in The Hangover that lasted the longest was Rob Riggle saying, "In the face! In the face!"
yeah, probably.
Right? Like, what's another line from The Hangover?
Because I feel like when people do hangover stuff, it's just like the references, the Galifianakis visual. It's something with the baby or the sunglasses or being pantsless, you know?
Yeah.
When people do hangover parodies, they're visual parodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Right?
That's very interesting.
yeah. Does like Mike Tyson have a line? Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there
Hangover.
something about a tiger?
Is a tiger. But like, it's not like anyone's like, "Look at that tiger." And everyone was like saying that all year. Like, my wife.
No, I was gonna quote one of the many homophobic lines in that movie, but I literally don't want to repeat the words.
Good. Don't.
Yeah, and I think also there's a nature by the nature of the film that, you know, at the end of the day, really that movie's a mystery. It's kind of a comedy, but
It's not a
mostly-
comedy. It's really, they're unraveling a great mystery.
They're
What
unraveling a
happened to
great
Martha?
mystery. So I feel like a lot of the lines are just them explaining the joke. You know what I'm saying? Like the big lines in that movie are like, "I'm missing a tooth?
Right.
Where'd this tiger come from?" Like the lines aren't
I'm
as
laughing
interesting.
already.
Right, the audience is laughing because of what it portends, not because of the
But
line
like, does
itself.
Galifianakis even have a killer line?
He has some good ones, but
Some
a lot-
weird like non sequiturs or
And
whatever.
is this the real Caesar's Palace?
Yeah, that's kind of a funny line.
We got blacked out last night. I mean, African Americaned out. But a lot of them are also like repurposing
that's
repurposings
junky.
of Galifianakis stand-up jokes.
Right.
That's it. He reuses. I remember people being
He's
like,
just doing his Purple Onion set.
because I was
Yeah.
such a big fan of his stand-up. I
Right,
still am,
right.
but at
Yeah,
that time
no, I
I was
love
so
him.
huge on him. And people, I was on vacation. I was overseas. I wasn't on vacation. I was doing a very serious acting program overseas when that movie came out. And so I didn't see it until like a month later. And people were like, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, but he's so great.
Sure.
You're not going to believe this performance.
Right,
and I was
right,
like,
right, right.
I've been on this guy's
Yeah,
train
you-
for 10 years. I can't wait to see it. And I saw it and I was like, he's doing a lot of his like bits from like,
Purple Onion.
right.
Live
yeah.
at the Purple Onion. That was like
Yeah.
his
Can I
thing.
tell you my favorite joke from that?
Sure.
I love how he just like kind of takes a pause. Bukowski was right, and then he slams his hands down on the piano.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
That's a
joke.
real Ben joke.
Right. There's stuff like that that's funny, but there's not like a clear, like, because you even go like, the things that end up being quoted relentlessly, we're going to do 15 minutes on Hangover, right? The things that
How
ended
did
up.
I start this? I
You
don't even-
started
I know. I
this.
don't even remember what
It's
it was.
200, baby.
The Wolfpack is back.
The Wolfpack is back.
Yeah.
You know my hottest take, which is that I think 3 is the best one.
Yeah.
Because I think the 3 is the only one that's about how they're all terrible people.
Right. I never saw 3. I
Explicitly.
heard that was it. It's almost like 3 is like them all being like, man, fuck this movie. Like, right.
One
yeah.
could say that 3 is like the Glass of the trilogy, where they're like not giving the audience what they want, and they're like deconstructing the entire
What? Is
success
that really
of
what
the
it's
thing.
like?
It's kind of like that.
But you could maybe, I don't know, come up with like an origin story? Because I've got one for you. It's called The Buzz, baby.
The buzz, buzz.
They're in high school. One of them gets locked in the janitor closet. It's the night before prom. They get drunk.
Now,
or
here was
something.
something a fan
No, they
asked
get
on
tipsy.
Reddit.
They don't
No,
get really
they
drunk.
buzzed.
They
You're
get-
right. They get buzzed.
Now, a fan asked this on Reddit.
Yes.
Why isn't it called The Buzz?
It is. That's what he just said.
So no more ED?
No, I said buzzed.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
really?
buzzed.
Okay, sorry. I was
Because
trying to defend
hangover
your
is
honor.
actually present tense.
Don't talk to me about grammar.
I agree with you. Thank you.
So
I just
you're-
wanted you to get that on the
No,
record.
because I think Ben's point is right. It's a prequel. It's not about the morning after. It's about the night before when they're getting a little buzzed.
Sure. Who's young Coops?
Oh, casting. I got to keep that secret.
Okay, right. He's in deep talks,
Yeah.
AKA he's opening IMDb right now.
Yeah.
You just put young Bradley Cooper into the search
Yeah.
bar.
Wait a second. He's pitching the three of us to Warner Brothers?
Ben! I'm like David Sims bracket, with like 13 in Roman numerals. I am on IMDb.
Really? For what?
Because I'm
As
in
himself?
I'm in some Gethard episodes, and that counts.
Oh.
I think that's it.
I think it's the Spirit of Gethard, the holiday special, which
That's
was
right.
recorded of us doing the podcast.
Correct. I am literally the
Wow.
13th. I remember correctly.
Wow. What better way to ring in our 200th episode than really testing our audience like that? You know what I'm saying? The people who have really been with us, Ride or Die, True Blue.
For anyone who's just tuning into this podcast because they wanted to hear people talk glass, we're going to talk glass.
We're going to dig.
Here's the background on Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Yeah.
Our first ever miniseries on a director
Right.
was on M. Night Shyamalan.
Right. We did a full year on Star Wars,
did.
which
We did
ended up
Star
sort
Wars.
of becoming about George Lucas. And we realized how fascinating we were the arc of this guy getting swallowed by his own mammoth success.
Right.
And then we were like, what if that's the thing?
Right. What if that's the premise of our pod?
Right.
Pod premise.
It's whether or not getting that sort of artistic freedom after massive success helps or hurts a career.
Yeah.
And I feel like now we err more towards the positive.
Yeah.
But when we came with this idea, we went, well, the guy to clearly talk about is M. Night.
M. Night was the initial pitch.
Right. Rose so high, fell so far.
I can still see you in my mind's eye sitting on that couch in the UCB lobby and being like, here's my idea.
It's M. Night.
M. Night. There
M.
was
Night.
an idea, one might say.
There was an idea,
Right.
M. Night. And then we immediately followed that up with, like, we want to do the Wachowskis.
Right. That was my counter pitch. I was
Right.
like, great. And then the Wachowskis.
because their movies keep bombing and we like them all.
Right.
We were
Yes.
like, right. But the M. Night thing was so odd because at that point we sort of were like, put a fork in him. He's done. We had both not seen The Visit.
That's right. Which had
heard
just
from
come
people
out.
it
right.
was good, but we're just like, what are the odds that's actually
Yeah,
good?
fuck that. There's no way.
Right. But then the miniseries ended on a triumph. A year later, we came back and he had Split, and suddenly, fucking verified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
4-quadrant hit.
Well, but beyond that, he had used Split to literally cash a like long ago blank
Yeah.
check to complete, like, you know, to start up a trilogy he'd always
Right.
wanted to make.
Right.
He'd made this like stealth sequel to Unbreakable that he funded himself.
Yes.
And
All
yeah.
three of these he funded himself. I thought this one he did with studio funding at a low Blumhouse level. He keeps on taking out loans or mortgaging his property
Yeah.
in the suburbs of Philadelphia in
Yes.
order to make these movies.
The-
This was $20 million
$20
of
million.
his own money
$20 million.
after The Visit was like 1.5 and Split was like 9.
That sounds right.
He keeps on multiplying it, but he's still only putting his own money into it because he said the thing I needed was to be scared again
Right.
about making movies. I need to feel a risk.
$5 million for The Visit,
Wow.
$9 million for Split.
Okay. So
And
he's
$20
he's
million for this.
almost
No,
doubling
obviously,
every time.
With
Yeah.
this, he's like, look, you saw how Split did, and this is a sequel to that. I've got these big actors, blah, blah,
This
blah.
feels like a safe
I'm
bet.
sure it's not hard for him to get the loan,
Right.
but, well, anything is hard.
But he's taking it against his property, which I love.
He is putting his dick on the line. I also think he
His
wants...
dick on the line.
Yeah.
Sure. But
I also think he wants Final Cut, I'm assuming. You know, he wants total control.
sure.
And this movie, say, if you took this script to a studio,
Uh-huh.
they might have some notes.
This is a movie that would get noted to death, where they'd go,
Yeah.
this is not
They'd
what
be like,
any audience wants to see.
A puddle? Are we sure we're going to... you do a puddle?
I love the audacity of this movie.
Spoiler alerts for Glass.
It's a Glasterpiece. We love it. Ben likes it. Okay. You don't hate it as much as
Ben's not
some
that into
people
it.
are vicious. Some
Okay.
people are ripping their
we're gonna-
I've
seats.
seen that. No,
I'm going to talk
I-
Glass. This is the Pod Night Shammercast.
I'll say
Yeah.
this. I like the idea of it.
Mhm.
I think it's like it's a valid piece of media to make.
If someone explained to you what he did with this movie, you'd be like, that's cool. And
Yes.
watching it, you didn't enjoy yourself.
No,
Sure.
It feels academic almost in
It's
a way.
very academic. I mean, I said this movie is just M. Night giving you 45 minutes of the sequel you want, and then the movie grinds to a halt and it becomes a series of dissertations
Yeah.
on everything.
Which people didn't like. Critics were unhappy about it.
Weirdly. But I think as opposed to, Lady in the Water, which I defend, but I defend kind of as just this ambitious go for broke swing, not a movie that I think fully works.
No.
This thing is very focused on sort of what he's talking about, and what he's talking about is keyed into the material and his career.
I find this movie so much more compelling, like just minute to minute.
I agree with you.
Than Lady in the Water. The problem with Lady in the Water is that when that stops, it's for like the Chinese teenager to be like, yeah, my grandma said that like the myth was that there's like a blah, and then whereas this, when it stops, it's like, let's talk about superheroes and supervillains. Like it's a little less like ridiculous. The universe is talking
Lady
about.
in the Water is like, I want to make a movie about the very nature of storytelling, but he doesn't really know what he has to say about it other than like, I think I write the best stories of anybody. This movie, he's like really wrestling with things. Yeah, I mean, this movie is also very in lockstep with culture. I mean, when we walked out of the movie and then like the day afterwards we were recording, you were like, I just read my review. I don't even know what to say about this fucking movie.
Yeah, right.
And I said, look, here are my couple of quick thoughts, which give me some credit.
Totally
the Batman Returns connection you stole from me.
I just lifted right off of you. I told you in advance.
You said, I'm going to use your take. And I said, thank you.
Yeah.
And then the other one I said is, I think he's executing
his
your read of Incredibles 2.
Right.
I think this is a more cohesive argument for what Incredibles 2 is trying to reckon with, which is, why are we so obsessed with this as a culture, and is this helping us or hurting us? Our investment in these superhero narratives. And the thing that M. Night's really tying this back to is just like, people go like, well, it's our modern mythology. It's the same as the Greek gods.
Sure.
But he's going like, why throughout history have we felt the need to engage in these stories of miraculous sort of powers outside of our understanding and people who can take care of us, greater evils, greater goods? And why do we need those things in our everyday life?
Mm-hmm.
Is that helping us or hurting us? But also, why in the first place are we drawn to these things?
That was
which
your
is
pitch.
a lot of movie to bite off.
Sure.
A lot. Especially in a movie that's a sequel to two different movies.
Sequel to two different movies, but also two movies that, especially like Split and then also The Visit, that are short, kind of robust, pretty lean thrillers. This is like a 2 hour, 10 minutes.
Unbreakable's long and slow.
No, Unbreakable is slow, but it's not long.
Really? How long?
It is an hour and 45 minutes long.
Wow.
And Split, because Unbreakable is very slow.
It's very stately.
But it's very stately. But, not a lot happens in Unbreakable.
No,
there's
there
only
aren't that
like
many scenes.
Right. There's only like one fight.
Right.
Like it's not, it never like builds to anything insane.
I'll say this.
And Split is closer to 2 hours.
It was obviously one of our earliest episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The Unbreakable episode is one of the great regrets I have at this podcast that I didn't stand up for it more.
Yeah, you coward.
You and Patches were dunking on it, and it's like one of my favorite movies ever. Patches was really dunking on it, and you followed the dunking a little bit, being like, yeah, it's pretty sad sack.
I still find that movie to be,
it.
I like it, but I find it to be so insanely like muted. But yeah.
Right. And that's what Patches was doubling down on that. And I like love it. I, for the first time, was like, maybe this isn't 100% perfect, and I cowered a little bit. But it still probably is one of my like 25 favorite movies ever.
You love that movie.
Yeah. It was in my 10 forever.
Remember when he falls down on the stairs? The little thing breaks.
There's so much stuff.
I like Unbreakable. I mean, when I was watching Glass and there are those, scenes he's using from Unbreakable, I'm just sort of like, oh man, remember when movies could do this? Like,
yeah. Even just like
Disney made that movie.
That movie looks so intense. When they cut in the deleted, do you know this, Ben? When they do the flashbacks in this to Unbreakable, they're literally deleted scenes from Unbreakable that he's now reusing for the first time 19 years later.
I kind of thought that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that he was able to carry over the archive of that.
I mean, that's the biggest thing here. Look, there's no sort of greater encapsulation of everything this podcast is about than this movie.
Yes.
Not just because he's the first director he covered, not because he's the first guy that we had to follow up with.
Not because this is the 200th episode.
But when we were looking at it, we were like, should we do something special for 200th? And we realized this was going to time out. We said, there's no better way to ring it in.
Right.
And our friend Ray Tintori, friend of the show, past guest, he was saying, I was arguing with him about Split, and I had all my criticisms of Split, and he said, but just the audacity of the fucking thing, that everyone counted him out.
That's what I love about Ray is he's such a cheerleader for movies he loves. He's such a good cheerleader.
Right. Everyone counted this guy out. He was done. He was cooked. and he sneaked his way back in,
Right.
not just to becoming a relevant commercial filmmaker,
But to making his weird ass shit. Yeah, no, for sure. Right.
the fact that he pulls it off, the audacity of him being like, and
I
it's
like
also
The
a sequel
Visit,
to Unbreakable.
but The Visit does feel a little more like him being like, let me make a movie I can tell people like right now. You know what I mean? I like The Visit.
right.
But The Visit is
yeah.
more, I'm going to
I
make
like
you
The
a
Visit a
really
lot more than Split.
well-made thriller.
I like The Visit a lot more than Split. I will say during this movie, I went,
good.
I think this is probably my third favorite Shyamalan. I think it's probably Unbreakable, Sixth Sense, and then this.
It is I already updated
Yeah.
the list. Fourth favorite Shyamalan.
You put Village ahead?
Village is my number one.
Right. So you go Village,
On Break,
Sixth Sense,
Glass,
and then this. Yeah.
Split, Visit, Signs.
But if you're a guy who spent as much time thinking about this guy as we have, this movie is just such a meal. You know?
I fully agree.
Like he's laying it all on
It
the
is-
line.
It is so weird. It's a
It
story
really-
that
I think he may have just made this for blank check
It kind
listeners.
of
I think
feels
he.
like
I
it.
think he did. I think he did.
It's
Come
a
on.
story that feels like it's the stuff that they would just mention, like off screen, had
Correct.
happened.
Correct.
That's the whole movie.
Right.
It's like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of movies.
I've
It's
tried
so
to
weird.
explain this movie a lot to people since I've seen it, and they want to hear my opinions, and they think I'm making shit up
Right.
when I describe to them without spoilers, like what the structure of the movie is.
Right.
And I was like, 45 minutes, he gives you like exactly what you think a sequel to Split would
100%.
be. Exactly what you
Kind
think
of
a
what you
sequel to
want a sequel to
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Right. Exactly.
Right, and I was like,
yeah.
this is good. It's a little
It's
generic.
basically
I want him to be a
Unbreakable
little,
versus Split is the first 45
And you're
minutes
going
where you're
back
like,
and
okay, here we
forth.
go. Sure.
and you're
sure.
like, this is the obvious sort of fan servicey payoff.
Yeah.
It's well done. I like my M. Night a little more audacious than this, but if this is what he's going for, I'm on board. Let him take his victory lap.
Right. What the first 45
And then he
minutes
spikes the football into the toilet.
is, and then just poops all over it.
Yeah. And then you and I are like, but don't you see?
Yeah. And while he's pooping, he's like, the thing about there are limited editions and origin stories.
I mean, I
comic books.
love this
People
movie.
may or may not know that superheroes are characters in
Yeah.
comic books. And so-
Printed on paper.
and some people are like, we know this. Why are you telling us this? You seem insane. Do you
Oh.
know anything about comic
Oh,
books?
yeah?
And I'm
Well-
like, shh, he's talking.
Oh yeah, well, have you ever heard about a secret society?
Okay, look.
Okay, we're gonna get to that.
Wait, give me your no. Hold your hands out. Hold them out.
Okay.
Let me check his wrists.
Okay, I don't see any clovers.
Okay.
All right. 3-leaf clovers. They're 3-leaf clovers because they're not special. That's why they have the 3-leaf
Someone
clover.
point out to us on Twitter.
Fucking
It's
genius.
fucking brilliant.
I'm going to find it.
Number one best film in 2019 with a bullet.
Best tweet of 2019 is the tweet that pointed that out to us.
You know this feeling though when you see a film this early in the year that you like this much and you're like, this isn't even a default number one. This is like my number one and something has to step up and knock it down. I'm not saying
Okay, I'm not there with you. But I've
like-
seen some good movies
like
this
last year, like Paddington 2 early in the year. I was like, this is a legitimate number one.
Right. So, yeah, it's not like a placeholder number one. It's like, I'm going to see more movies this year and,
Right.
and we'll see.
But this
we'll
is,
see.
This is a movie I like a lot. It's not like My Baby's Daddy being number one by default because it comes out January 10th.
Escape Room.
I'm calling my shot already, and it's Beach Bum.
Beach Bum's going to be. I mean, there's no way you will like a movie more this millennia than Beach Bum.
King Guthrum, called Jesse of the Wild on Twitter.
Is the
He's
one who pointed out
pointed
the
that
Clover thing.
Shout
Yeah.
out to you, sir.
Literal shout out.
Because I've seen like High Life. I've seen some movies that are coming.
well,
Her
sure.
Smell.
Yes, Her Smell, which we both like a lot.
That's up there for me.
we bias, but
bias.
it's a very good film.
I like the Mike Lee movie Peterloo.
Well, you've seen more stuff in
Right.
advance.
No,
than
I'm just saying.
have.
But I
Yeah.
do like Glass.
Yes,
Gloss.
Glass. So, I mean, context. Listen to our previous 12 episodes about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. Especially listen to our Split episode, obviously, because we're sort of getting into the trick he's pulled.
Yeah.
There.
Do you know what's a weird phenomenon I'm noticing now? In
Yeah.
a lot of these, like the pre-Glass pieces where people are trying to talk about like a look back at Unbreakable and everyone keeps on referring to it as his second film. Like
Yeah.
what a risky second film that even all these years later, people still think Sixth Sense is the first one.
Mhm.
And I feel like the exact same thing is happening with Krasinski now.
Okay.
Krasinski's a weirdly similar arc where it's like he made two sort of like human, like sort of adult dramedy movies. And then Quiet Place is so big that everyone's like, oh, his debut film, it's very impressive. And then I think he's just going to do elevated genre stuff for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's going to make The Hollers again.
I hope he doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I hope he-
That's the thing about Krasinski that feels to me slightly craven sometimes is where he was like, Oh, you don't want that kind of a movie? How about this kind of a movie? Yeah,
But
right,
is
yeah.
that not the same thing that happened with Shyamalan? I mean,
Kind of.
I think.
Shyamalan never tried to make a Hollers.
I mean,
Is
is Wide Awake that different from the Hollers?
I suppose so. If you're going all the way back then,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but Wide Awake is weirdly personal.
I greatly prefer Wide Awake. I'm just saying, Wide
Maybe
Awake.
Hollers was personal. Shouldn't shit on
I don't know.
Krasinski.
I just feel like those.
Maybe he knew a holler. What's it about?
I feel like Praying with Anger, and the Hollers, and Wide Awake,
Mhm.
and Brief Interviews with Hideous Men are in a similar kind of stew.
I get you.
And then, like, Shyamalan himself, cravenly, was like fucking frustrated with Miramax, can't make it in Hollywood. I'm going to make something they can't not buy.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a thriller with a perfect twist.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same thing as, like, Quiet Place.
Mhm.
Like, just make a down-the-middle movie that people cannot argue with.
Cool.
And then they both became elevated genre.
Ugh.
Because the second people like a horror movie, they have to pretend
At
it's
least
not a horror movie.
Shyamalan doesn't go around saying he's making an elevated thriller or whatever, does he?
No, but I
I
think
mean, he made an elevator thriller. It was called
It
Devil.
was called Devil.
I can't remember who directed that, but he
I
produced
can't
it.
either. That was part of the Night Chronicles.
Of course, we all remember.
We all remember the Night Chronicles, a long-running, indefinite series of films branded by M. Night Shyamalan, but not made by him.
John Eric Dowdle.
Okay.
You know what I want to say about Devil?
What?
Logan Marshall Green is in it.
What a cool, fucking handsome actor.
Have you seen Upgrade?
I need to see it.
You gotta see Upgrade.
It's good Venom, right?
Exactly.
Have you seen this movie yet, Ben?
Ben
No, I know I need
Hosley,
to see it.
You run, do not walk to
Yeah.
your video on demand service or whatever.
Yeah.
It barely had like
It
a
got
run.
dumped.
And, yeah,
It got dumped.
It barely, like I
See
was,
this movie,
And it's
you
dir-
will love it.
I know.
It's directed by Lee Winnell, right?
Correct.
Yeah, who's James Wan's
Writing
partner
Okay.
in the early days with all the horror movies and everything.
You're gonna love this movie so much. I think you might like throw a clot. Like I'm worried about you. You know what I mean?
I genuinely, it's on my list of things I need to see before the Blankies because I'm like, that might make my best actor list.
Definitely.
Just from the
See it.
trailer alone and what people have told
See,
me.
and also it's like 90 minutes. You know, like or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
no, I need to see
you'll
that.
blast through it.
No, but I think that's the key to Shyamalan is like when he went astray, it was when he was like elevated thriller. And when people were like, The Happening's bad, and he's like, you don't get it. It's like a
It's a
commentary
B
on B
movie.
movies.
That was his.
Right.
And you know that felt like George Lucas being like, these movies are for kids. Like, shut up.
Right. Which I hate when people put the qualifiers on it where it's like, you're watching this wrong. If
Right,
you think
right.
it isn't good, your brain is broken.
Right.
And meanwhile, like, do you know that Lady in the Water, The Village, and maybe I want to say The Happening as well, all ended up on the Kays de Cinema top 10 list?
Is that so?
Village and
Village
Lady in the
belongs
Water,
there.
I'm 100% were on there. And they don't include a lot of American films.
Yeah, but it's always like they always include
Right.
something like
So
that.
he would always in interviews be like, in Europe, they understand me. Americans have just become so demanding. But he's done this press in the last year after being this guy who started to have this reputation of his hubris destroying him, right?
Right.
His inflated sense of himself. The last year or two, post-Split, pre-Glass, he's been doing all these interviews where he like is like, I'm not a blank check guy. Like some of those people like Cameron and Lucas and Spielberg, when you give them more, they know how to run with it. And I think I'm better working on a smaller, scrappier level. I put my own money on the line because I want to be scared about my own movies again. I really had to bet on myself. He was on the Norm Macdonald talk show. It's an episode that's fucking incredible. Where just
I
for
need to
30
watch
minutes, he talks about how he figured out everything that he had done wrong in his career and how to rebuild it. And he was like, I need to be scared again. He had this amazing line that I feel like is a thing we talk about a lot where he's like, with filmmaking, directors usually have this period where they're really on a roll. Whether it happens early or late or in the middle of their career, there's a pocket where they just start really clicking and have a couple films that really connect in succession, right? And he was like, I think there's this thing where it's like your instincts and your understanding of technical craft. They coincide at some moment.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you've had enough success that you're not following your instincts, you're following the patterns of what you think have worked for you before. And you're using your mastery of the craft to guarantee that you're not making missteps. Because you go, I so thoroughly know how to make a movie at this point, I can't be doing this wrong. I'm not a rookie. And he was like, I got into that pocket where I was making movies that people didn't like.
Yes.
And I wouldn't accept that they weren't working because I knew how to make a movie.
This is his, Last Airbender
Right.
problem or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So he was like, I got to get scrappy. I got to drop all pretensions. I want to scare people.
Yeah.
I want a movie that makes the audience feel something on a visceral level.
Sure.
And the other thing he said was, I had kids. I was a young dad. I was a young filmmaker. My movies got less and less scary the more I had kids, and I was watching kids' movies, and I was making stories for them.
So he killed
And my
kids.
daughters are teenagers.
Jesus.
I'm kidding. It's
No,
a
but
joke.
He literally said, like,
Jesus.
my daughters are teenagers now, and I want to scare the shit out of them.
Right.
Like, I'm making
The
movies for, like...
innocence is going away, and he wants to make kind of R-rated type
Right.
movies. And these are PG-13.
And you're like, the Split and Visit are, like, movies that feel like they're, like, designed for high school girls to be like, do you want to see that scary movie?
Split and Visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say, before you talk, Ben, one sec. You're correct. The Village was number 2 on the Kaye's list in 2004. Lady in the Water was number 6 in 2006. And Split was number 8.
Split was the third one. I knew 3 of them had made Kaye.
What did you want to say, Ben?
So I've read some of the press he's done.
The press.
And what do you got? He's not funny.
No, he's weird. Though.
It's
that. Do you remember that Buried Secret where like he was like playing pool with people and stuff? Like he's just got kind of a weird energy.
Yeah.
Well, and he used to want to build this mythology around him. I mean, Buried Secret was that the man who heard voices. Like he wanted to be this like
this enigmatic,
supernatural,
figure,
enigmatic figure. And I like that now he's just like I'm kind of like a basic dad from Philly.
Yeah,
I
he
wear,
likes the
puka shell
Sixers.
necklaces.
He's very into basketball. He tweets about that.
Right, I'm sort of a goofball. I mean, Norm Macdonald's show, they do a segment at the end where he has whoever his guest is read jokes. Like he's written Norm Macdonald jokes and he puts them on cards and they have to cold read jokes. And it's a fun test of like Norm Macdonald, who's got such a specific delivery, handing his jokes over to people who don't have training as comedians.
Right.
And M. Night just like can't do it. And he's trying. It's like really sweet and endearing.
Because and I think it was, I don't remember where, maybe it was a New York Magazine interview. And comedy came up and he was just like talking about writing comedy. I'm like, man, you are not a funny person.
Well, and his cameo in Glass is like the weirdest moment in the entire film where he's trying to make it a joke and like a victory lap for the fans.
So, Ben, in case you're not thinking about this deeply as Griff and I, the character he plays in Glass is the same character he played in Unbreakable, where he's like a creepy drug dealer.
Right. And Split, where he's
the pizza guy.
He's like into wings.
And he comes in, remember, and he talks to like Sterling K. Brown or Betty Buckley.
He talks to Betty Buckley. Sterling K. Brown was cut out of the movie.
He was cut out of the movie.
Yeah, he talks to Betty Buckley, yes.
And I guess in that one, but he's still like a little shady in that one.
Yeah.
And in this one, he's trying to be like, see, like, even though this movie's set like 3 weeks after Split, like the arc is complete. Like
this guy made good, and
this
the movie
guy's
grinds
all right
to
now.
a halt.
Yeah, it grinds to a halt.
I think I was too busy yawning.
Right, and he literally says like
to pick up on that.
I don't know if you remember me. I used to go to the stadium a lot.
Yeah,
which like I would never recognize Bruce Willis if I were his character.
Well, if I knew who Bruce Willis was.
Yes, if you were like, man, that security guard
if
looks
it's sort
a
of an
lot
Ocean's
like
12
movie
situation.
star Bruce
right?
Willis.
Yeah. You know who you look like?
Bruce Willis. I will say there is a thing. When they cut to the Unbreakable scenes in this, you're just like, God, is that guy handsome? Like, he still looks great old, but Unbreakable is such a specific moment where he was like, I'm shaving the head.
He's real bald in Unbreakable.
I'm owning that I'm like not, youthful anymore.
I kind of enjoy this old Willis, though, with the sort of gray goatee.
I love this look. I mean, I love that he's grown the sides out.
Grow them out.
Because it's like the thing, like guys like this, it's like the sides, it's even if there's stubble, you're seeing too much. I want to make it look like my choice as opposed to balding as much as possible. And this, it's like full, grown out, white sides.
He's
weird scruff beard goatee.
I know what his head looks like, his skull.
Yeah.
So well.
He's got one of the best shaped heads in human history. Right?
I really enjoy looking at Bruce Willis.
I do too.
I guess that's the best way to put it. I think he was a very handsome guy, especially back in the sort of moonlighting Die Hard days, right? But yeah, he's still just a very striking guy, very expressive face in a weird kind of a way.
And Samuel L. Jackson together, because Samuel L. I mean, his face. It's
Here's
just.
the other
It's
thing.
this. I feel that way
you know
about
this, but
Samuel
Ben,
L.
how old do you think Samuel L. Jackson is?
I was going to ask this exact
How
question.
old do you think he is?
How old do you think he is?
I know he's in his 50s.
Take a guess.
57.
He is 70.
What?
70 years old.
Oh my God.
The man is 70. And I was thinking about this.
Holy
I think I was
shit.
talking
You
to,
said you knew he's in his 50s?
And I was-
That's how old he was in Unbreakable.
Right.
Oh my God. That's
And
crazy.
I was
Unbreakable, he's 51.
I was talking to this to a friend of the show, Rob Shear,
Yes.
and he was it Rob or I can't remember if it was Joey. I was talking to someone.
Okay.
This might be Joey Sims, my brother. It's one of the two. Talked to them both very.
Yeah, it's
very
either someone you
back to
grew
back.
up with or a friend.
Someone I know. But they said that they saw. I think it was. I can't remember. It was no. This was Joey, right?
Yeah.
He saw like Mary Poppins maybe at some special screening
Uh-huh.
that was Disney. So he saw all 3 Disney trailers.
Okay.
And Samuel L. Jackson is going to be in all of these movies.
Captain Marvel.
Avengers, and Spider-Man.
Oh, he's in all 3
He's
Marvels
in all
this
3
year.
Marvels,
Right.
and I'm like, he's 70.
Yeah.
And he's like playing a Nick Fury in these action movies.
And also he
you know
kind
how
of-
Nick Fury doesn't age? Samuel L.
Yeah.
Jackson actually doesn't really age.
He also like sat out 10 Marvel
yeah,
movies
he's been
in a
taking
row.
it easy. Yeah.
Right. And I think because he doesn't age, people aren't giving the de-aging in Captain Marvel enough credit.
Right.
Because it is also such a weird thing where it's like he was such a big movie star in the 90s.
Right.
That the fact that they're nailing 90s
They're nailing
Sam Jack.
90s Sam Jack. They're nailing rules of engagement Samuel L.
Even
Jackson or whatever.
earlier!
Even earlier. Like
Right.
The Negotiator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love The Negotiator.
God, this fucking guy. I mean, that's the thing. Someone was tweeting about, and I love tweeting about ages not matching up, especially with mothers in Hollywood, where like the second actress is 31, she becomes the mother of a 27-year-old. You know. But they were pointing out that Charlene Howard, who plays
Charlene Woodard.
Charlene Woodard, who plays
His mother.
Mr. Glass's
Price.
mother, Mrs. Price, is 65.
She's younger than Sam Jack. But of
And
course, she
Sam
was
Jack-
playing the mother of the child actor.
And in the
in
original,
Unbreakable, yes.
she is only present day in the final
They
scene.
age her up in that final scene. They put makeup on her. Yeah.
But you look at this movie and you look at her and the age she's supposed to be playing, and you're like, Sam Jack is probably supposed to be 20 years younger than his character in this movie?
Yeah. Even though they're
Or his
age-
character's supposed to be 20 years younger than him.
but even though they're aging
Correct.
him, like they've grayed his hair, like from his, his wig is now gray.
Right. They're like, maybe this guy was like 37 in the first movie, and he's
Right.
57 now, and he
Samuel
started
Jackson's
going
70.
He's 70.
Yeah.
He's a gentleman's 70. Because I remember Snakes on a Plane coming out, everyone being like, at 60, Sam Jackson lying for his biggest hit ever.
Right.
I was like, 60?
It's aspirational, man.
It's so annoying that Snakes on a Plane isn't good.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Do you just remember that moment where you were like, I don't know, maybe the entire paradigm is shifting? Like, I remember the Entertainment Weekly cover for Snakes on a Plane was like a low-budget thriller that might change the film industry forever.
Yeah.
Spooky. And they wrote spooky with like 7 S's. There you go, Snakes on a Plane.
Snakes. I just, the story was just so good where they were like, they tried to change the title and Samuel L. Jackson was like, I literally only signed on
Yeah.
because the script was called Snakes on a
Right,
Plane.
they almost
That's the
called it
only
like-
thing I like about
They
this
called it
movie.
like Flight 427.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's like, who wants to see that?
But what's so cool about him too is like his career. It's like so all over the place.
Yeah.
He'll do anything.
He's done action movies like in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
He was in like all these thrillers,
Mhm.
but then he's also done all the Tarantino stuff.
Yeah,
Of course.
He's
Spike Lee. I mean, this
he's
is
so
the key to
cool.
him. I think we've talked about this in other episodes, but he was a full-on drug addict.
Yeah.
He was like a theatrically trained,
Yeah,
serious
he's a
stage
community
actor.
theater guy who did a lot of stage acting.
Right, he had
in his
small
younger
bit parts
years.
and stuff where you're like, oh, he like shows up and like, I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Yeah, but like when he's in like Goodfellas or whatever, he's already in his 30s. Like when
Right.
he's in Jungle Fever, like when he starts to come around, he's in his 30s then.
right, and I
Yeah.
think he was viewed as like best case scenario. This guy turns out like John Ortiz. He's like a legend of the New York stage.
I
And
think
he
he
gets-
was in his 40s then.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right, but you know what I'm saying? Like John Ortiz, like will show up in like big movies, and
Love
he's
John
like,
Ortiz.
right, like he's got like a good film and television career, but he's not like a star.
No.
You know?
Mhm.
And Sam Jack was like, that's probably where he's heading. He had become a
Yeah, be a character actor.
right.
Yeah,
He had been a full crack cocaine addict for a while,
Sure.
kicked it late, and then sort of put that experience into Jungle Fever.
Yeah.
Which at that point is his third Spike Lee?
He's in third. Yeah.
Because I think like Do the Right Thing was one of his first like
fourth, because he's in School Days.
sober kind of like now he's like full on the tracks performances.
Sure.
Jungle Fever, they give him Best Supporting Actor at Cannes, which is an award that doesn't exist,
They did. They invented an award for him.
just to recognize this performance. Off of that, Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
And then he just becomes a legend, like immediately overnight.
Mhm.
And he is a guy where once he starts doing like the big paycheck movies, Sam Jack is one of these dudes where he just never fucking phones it in. No. I think he can be good or great. Because even
I agree.
good Sam
I've
Jack...
never thought he was bad in a movie.
Never. No, because good Sam Jack, you're like, it's the thing I've seen him do 1,000 times.
Right, you're like, oh, yeah, but
he's a
Samuel
pro.
Jackson,
He's always engaging.
fine,
You can tell he's in the pocket. He works really hard.
He's been in bad movies.
Certainly.
Sure.
I love how he weighed in recently about that I think she's a senator calling Trump a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And how he would like, because he's like, I like how he's like the ambassador
word.
of a motherfucker.
Yes.
He's so good. He's been in so many good movies.
I think it was a New Yorker profile of
He's
him
in the
some
Star
years
Wars
back.
movies. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he's Mace Windu. Yeah. There was a New Yorker profile of him some years back where they talked to his agent, I think. And he said, I'm constantly having to deal with phone calls with Sam where he called me from set complaining about everything. And I have to say to him, Sam, you have to remember no one else is going to be as good as you are. And it's not just in terms of like talent. He's apparently one of those guys where he arrives on set and he's like word perfect, nails his blocking, never has a bad take, is like so prepared, such a pro, raps early, goes and plays golf. Like is like really invested, really prepared. And he's like, he never fights with actors who are at his same weight class.
Sure.
And that, like, you get it. Like, whatever fucking thing he's in, whether the director's good or bad or not, he sits in his trailer. He apparently watches kung fu movies on a loop and anime. And then they're like, they call him. He nails it in one take.
All right. You know what, Sam Jack? You're going to be the star of Night Eggs.
Well,
whoa, what?
That's right.
Oh,
that's
my
huge.
God. That's humongous.
Is Chris on board, Whites?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's producing it, much like Columbus. This is his new Columbus.
Yeah, right.
No, but what I was going to say, the wind up here is the crazy thing that he has said in press for this movie is that this is the first time he has ever played the title character.
Wow, is
and
that
that's
true?
crazy for the career
What
that
about
we
the
just talked
Hitman's
about.
Bodyguard? Was he not the Hitman's Bodyguard?
No, the bodyguard is Ryan Reynolds.
He's the
Hitman.
Hitman?
Oh, he was Shaft.
He was Shaft. Now, of course, there are many Shafts even
tricky
within
part.
Shaft, but no, he was
Shaft
Shaft.
is referring to the family
So he
name.
was Shaft.
That is fair. That is fair.
I'm going through to see if there are any others, though.
Because the negotiator is referring to Kevin Spacey. You could argue.
Sure, I mean, they're both the negotiator.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
That's a good movie.
Let's see. Django Unchained, he was obviously not Django. Thor. No, he wasn't Thor. Interesting. Okay.
I guess maybe the negotiator is more him than Spacey, but it's kind of like a Black Panther title where it's like it could mean either of them.
They're both the negotiator.
Yeah. And Spacey's so good in
it's
that.
Spacey.
Ding dong. Ding dong.
You wanted to cut to the ad break on Spacey's so
Ding
good
dong.
in that?
I wonder why. Ding dong.
Oh, no.
Hello, friends. Have you missed me?
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
No, you can't do this.
Oh, no.
No, you can't do this for an ad read.
Oh, my God. It's Foghorn Leghorn. You were worried with what I was teeing up.
Yep.
And you were correct because, of course, it's Looney Tune Foghorn Leghorn.
What a character.
How quickly you have forgotten me, I say. Foghorn, what are you doing here today? Well, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated.
I didn't know you had died.
That's what they want you to believe.
Sure.
But this is not the ending we deserved. It's not the ending you deserved, I say.
Well, I'm glad that you're alive.
What are you here to talk about, Foghorn?
There are no sins in art, I say.
Well, hey, could we tell you a little bit about one of our sponsors, Foghorn?
Coach Carter. He was Coach Carter.
Why are you saying this to me, Foghorn Leghorn?
Just pointing it
Look, I want to tell you about something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated for
That's
one
fine.
reason.
I understand.
I have not died. My hair has died. I say.
Oh, you do have a bit of a on the head there.
I'm wearing a waddle toop.
Yeah, I'm noticing it now.
My waddle on top of my head is a toop. I say.
How old are you, Foghorn? Can I call you Foghorn?
Yeah, I'm a spry 119 years old.
Okay, well,
you seem to be sweating profusely.
What are you talking about? Let me just mop my brow with this Santa Claus apron. I say.
66% of men lose their hair by age 35.
You don't have to tell me about it.
Right, so...
I'm going on 75 years of balding.
Exactly. When you start to lose your hair, it can be too late. It's already gone.
I say.
So it's easier to keep the hair you've got rather than replace the hair you've lost.
Well, how do we do that?
Well, you
when
can go
Netflix has so unceremoniously killed me.
Netflix did this to you?
Yes, I want to restate I'm Foghorn Leghorn.
Well, you can go to forhims.com. It's a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness. Thanks to science, For Hims can help baldness be optional. They'll connect you to real doctors to get you medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. The well-known generic equivalents to name brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. There's no waiting room. There's no awkward doctor visits.
There are no sins in art. We're in this together. You're complicit.
You can save hours by going to forhims.com. You answer a few questions, doctor reviews, prescribes you medicine or products or solutions, whatever you need, ships it directly to your door.
And you said they'll take care of my cock? A doodle do?
They, yeah.
You get it?
They have some name brand.
Rooster humor. What, am I too edgy for you?
No, I just wanted to tell you that you can get a free month of For Hims for you can get a trial month of For Hims for just $5 right now while supplies last.
I never play by the rules, and you love me for it.
You can see the website for full details. It costs hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. You can go to forhims.com/check. It's forhims.com/check. Forhims.com/check for a $5 month.
I say, I will click that checkbox to make sure I get the promo.
Okay. You actually have to put in, you have to just go to forhims.com/check.
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Get out of here, you
Now, if you
creep.
excuse me, I have a courtroom appearance in Connecticut I have to make my way to.
Foghorn, you and Trump, you need some hot water.
You haven't read?
Is that Griffin?
Yeah, he's
Griffin.
leaving now.
Bye.
I'm telling you, Daily Beast has been working on a Foghorn piece for months, and his lawyers just keep on shooting it down. Look, I want to talk about Glass.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I got you.
We talk about Sam Jack a little bit.
And like in Sphere,
He's good in all these things. Now, I want to talk about Bruce a little bit, because I feel like you and I were particularly excited for the Bruce of this movie.
Bruce Willis.
And that was Joey's first question to you was, is Bruce trying?
Right.
That was the thing he wanted to know above all else.
Yeah.
Because I think we're
We
on the
love
same
Bruce.
page.
We love Bruce.
And there are few actors. He's the opposite of Sam Jack. He is so often so lazy. So often does not show up to play.
Here are the movies. The last Bruce movie that I think that I saw was Looper, and it came out in 2012.
Moonrise came out that same year.
We were talking about this. We're in 2012. He did Moonrise and Looper, and
He
it was
hosted
sort of
SNL,
like,
and you were like, "Is Bruce going to try again?"
Right. It looks like Bruce is having fun again
Yeah.
with some real directors. Here's what he's done. I'm going to read you some titles.
18 Redbox movies.
I'm going to read you
them
some
to me.
titles.
I'll tell you if I've
Fire
seen any of
with
these.
Fire.
I have not seen it.
A Good Day to Die Hard. A genuine sequel to the Die Hard movies. I didn't see it. 'Cause
Pointedly
it was supposed to be
didn't see
awful.
it. Yeah.
It was a bomb.
Stars him and Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah,
Try Courtney.
Old sack of potatoes himself. G.I. Joe Retaliation. Now,
He's
I did
kind
not
of
see
fun in
that.
that.
It's a supporting role?
He plays G.I. Joe. It's one of the best tee-ups where they're like, there's no one who can help us now. We're laying low. And then The Rock goes, there is one guy who can help us. And the generic model playing like Flint says who. And he goes, there's a reason they call us Joes. And they cut to Joe Colton.
I kinda
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
He kind of rules in it. He's sort of sleepwalking through it.
Sure.
But it's like he shoots down a bunch of guys, and The Rock goes like, "How are you doing?" He goes, "My cholesterol could be a little lower." Like it's that kind of like old man joke sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm all in on it. I have an action figure of Bruce Willis from G.I. Joe.
How surprising.
A little Bruce.
Red 2. Didn't see Red 2.
He does not show up to play in that movie. And I think Red 1 is kind of fun. Red 2, he's not in that film.
Now, I forgot that I actually did see this film at a press screening. Sin City, A Dame to Kill For.
Another one where
he does not have much of a role in. He's like a ghost in that movie.
Yeah, but even still, it's like, I think he's pretty good in the first one. That one, you're just like, fucking. The rumor now is that he works for $1 million a day. And so either his part is incredibly small or like all these red box, like Fire by Fire movies.
Yeah.
It's like they pay him $5 million to work 1 week.
Right. There's this movie, The Prince. Which,
doesn't exist.
Has John Cusack.
And Jason Patrick.
But John Cusack on that poster looks like a body snatcher. Like he looks like a pod person. I'm sorry.
It is weird.
I don't mean to be rude, but he used to be so handsome. What happened to him?
It feels like Cusack and Cage did some swap. Like Cage is doing more legitimate movies again.
Yeah,
and he tricked Cusack into it
right.
follows syndrome.
Yeah, right. He redboxed him.
Now
or whatever,
Cusack is stuck being poorly photoshopped on these posters.
He was in a movie called Vice. No, not Adam McKay's hit Cheney biopic.
He actually, he could be a good Cheney in an alternate universe.
He'd be a great Cheney.
Yeah.
He was in Rock the Casbah. I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
He was in something called Extraction.
Not a movie.
He was in something called Precious Cargo.
Doesn't exist.
These titles are just so funny.
These
And
all
it's-
truly
you always
go
look it
straight
up
to
and it's like
Redbox, yeah.
Mark Paul Gosselaar, Thomas Jane, like his co-star
Yeah.
is always something you're like, oh, okay. Kellen Lutz.
Right.
Uh,
John Cusack wearing leather gloves.
He was in something with the co-star this time was Christopher Maloney, and it's called Marauders.
No, he wasn't. That movie doesn't exist.
He was in Once Upon a Time in Venice.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Which is he's got like a dog.
Yeah. It's him and Adam
Goodman's
Goldberg.
in it.
Yeah.
Famke Janssen.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Something called First Kill.
But
No, I'm not done. I'm not done.
He's made so many
First
movies.
Kill with Hayden Christensen. Acts of Violence. These titles are incredible.
Yeah.
With who's in this one?
Someone should
Cole Hauser.
Someone should make a website that's random Bruce Willis Redbox title generator, and you could come up with all of these.
Then he's in something called Reprisal with Frank Grillo, who is
Mm-hmm.
like, the king of Redbox.
Right.
Something called Airstrike with Adrian Brody, which like what is going on? I think this is a Chinese
Christ.
production.
Wow. Everyone look up the Airstrike poster now. Airstrike.
And he was in a film that was actually like released in theaters, which is Eli Roth's Death Wish, which I
Right.
did not see.
Which is
Which a lot of people were like, gross.
yeah,
Like,
peak
seemed to be
wrong
the-
time, wrong place movie.
So and now he's in Glass. So that's what Brucey's been up. After that promising year where he was in these good movies, making an effort,
Yeah.
he just literally was like, does it film in Bulgaria?
Right.
I'll be there. Does it film in the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia?
You'll pay me in gold?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only aluminum futures are my currency now. Yeah, right.
I don't work for less than 3 wives.
Yeah, he has 4 islands off the coast of Dubai now. Yeah, right.
So he's in Motherless Brooklyn, the Ed Norton.
Sure, which
Jonathan Lethem
I hope
adaptation.
I hope he's good in that. I hope that's good.
So this is the legend about him, at least these days, okay?
Yeah.
Because I was flipping through the channels and some of the Jackal came on, and it was like, this is like, he's still like trying
That's
in these
been
days.
on Stars recently. a
Yeah.
lot.
It was on maybe Action.
Stars Action.
Yeah.
Stars Max.
The legend about sort of, I would say, like post, 2004 Willis is that he tests his directors in a way that sort of sounds like late period Brando.
Right.
Where he on the first day is like, and what kind of lens are you going to use for this and how many setups?
Right.
And if they don't have a clear answer and don't know what they're talking about,
Sure.
he decides he's going to be a fucking asshole to them. Kevin Smith tells all these stories about what a
Right.
nightmare he was.
Right. On
Kevin
a
Smith
cop-out.
also,
Right.
famously, not a very sophisticated filmmaker.
Right. If you ask him about lenses, Kevin Smith's probably like whatever the DP says. Right.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Right. And so it makes sense when you look at the one commonality is he is good every time he works with a real
A proper
director.
director, pretty much every time.
But unfortunately, he doesn't seem to care that much about doing good movies. When they come to him, he'll take them.
Yeah.
And he's happy to just work on these bullshit things in Bulgaria for 2 hours.
Right,
and
that
get
are
paid.
directed by like Creata players from like various EA games that somehow came to life.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Airstrike was directed by a Nintendo Me.
Oh my god!
So I think-
Dun. That's what it was. It
Yes.
said to Bruce. Yeah.
There was a point, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, where Shyamalan was shopping around a new movie that was like a spiritual drama starring Bruce, and I was like,
where they he walks across the earth or something.
right. And I was like, they gotta work together again. Like, I don't care what this pitch is. Both of them need to be working with each other again.
Yeah,
And then when he shows up at the end of Split, I was like, this is great. Unbreakable
Labor of
sequel.
Love was the name of that movie.
Right. But more than anything, I was like, I want to see Bruce work with one of his guys again. I want to see Bruce try. And then he shows up in the trailer and the promotional materials with the sides, with the beard. And I was like, he's owning his age. That character, I think Unbreakable is his best performance ever.
I
think
love, 12
Bruce-
Monkeys. That's my favorite.
He
Bruce.
gave a lot of good performances in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I think the key to Bruce is that there was always this underlying sadness to him, which 12 Monkeys taps into,
Totally,
Pulp
100%.
Fiction,
Yeah. He's a melancholy
Unbreakable.
guy. Yeah.
There's a melancholy quality to him. Certainly the first Die Hard, and they get further and further away from it as it goes on.
Sure.
And I feel like Shyamalan got the inherent sadness of Bruce
Obviously,
better
Sixth
than most
Sense.
directors.
Yeah.
Right.
Haunted movie.
Right. So I was just like so in it. And then maybe the biggest twist of this movie is that like Bruce Willis is like the 5th biggest character.
Yeah. So like for biggest character in this movie, who we haven't talked about much yet, James McAvoy.
Right.
And then number 2, I guess it's Sam Jack, even though he's not in the first chunk.
I'd say it's like maybe Sarah
Paulson.
Paulson. Tight.
Yeah. And then I think Bruce is 4th.
Like 4, right.
Because I don't think Anya Taylor-Joy or like Spencer Treat Clark.
No, I'd say they're sort of
do.
tied right after that. Spencer Treat Clark is in a lot of this, which I was very pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Yes.
Yeah, he's good. He's fine. He's good. Looks like he did when he was a kid.
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah.
Very
and
haunted
hot.
eyes.
You turned to me and said, pretty hot.
Yeah. I mean, he was on S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I will watch over Joanna's shoulder sometime.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, oh, look, it's what's his pants from Gladiator?
He had that huge 2000. It was
yeah.
Gladiator and Unbreakable in the same year. But yes, I mean, I think we were surprised as billing freaks by the billing when this movie came out. You're like, McAvoy gets first, I guess, because it's the sequel to Split, but also like Bruce and Sam Jack are such bigger stars.
Sure.
Sam Jack makes total sense as the in this movie, which he is in the end credits.
Uh-huh.
It's and Samuel L. Jackson as Mr. Glass, which few things get me harder than an and as
the title character. Oh, so good.
It's so cool.
Ben, can you turn the heat down in here? I'm getting a little worked up. Yeah. Oh, Ben just rolled his eyes at me?
But Sam Jack is literally comatose for much of this movie.
Sure. Right.
And Bruce
But he's not really.
Right.
He's playing you.
Bruce is kind of like comatose plot-wise. Like the movie, in order to work, needs to put him on the bench for a while just being like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
I think everything he does is really good. You can tell he's trying. It's not maybe the Bruce showcase we were all hoping it would be.
That's fair, but it is a fairly Shyamalan Bruce performance.
100%.
You know, his Sixth Sense and Unbreakable performances are also very muted.
And
very quiet.
He's in it. He's totally in it.
I agree.
Yeah. So let's talk about the start of this movie. The cold open is we go straight into Split Land, right? Doesn't it start with the cheerleaders? We've seen this now 2 weeks ago. Ben, you saw this yesterday.
It starts with it cutting between that the Horde has kidnapped new girls.
Right. You get a lot of news coverage.
And, you know, the David Dunn is like patrolling around looking for them. Like, because there's that thing that isn't the first scene that like
I feel like it starts with the cheerleaders.
Yeah, but what about the scene where David Dunn beats up the
I think that's the
Salt
second
Bay
scene.
kids?
I think that's the second
who were
scene.
Salt Baying and they're
either
beating
way,
someone up.
This is what you're talking about, where the movie's going back and forth between Split and Unbreakable. Romilly has not seen any Shyamalan movies, wants to see Glass, was like,
why?
Am I going to get it if I haven't seen Split? And I'm like, well, but here's the thing.
No.
I think the Split stuff is pretty clearly re-explained at the beginning of this movie. She's going to be 100% lost if she hasn't seen Unbreakable.
You have to see Split because, yes, the basics of Split are explained. But then later in the movie, people are talking to specific personalities, like and drawing them out, and the movie's kind of like you need to know who this is and what this means.
I mean, there are a few movies that are this inaccessible if you haven't seen both previous films.
Yeah, totally. You need to see.
What are the personalities that are the main? It's
Hedwig, Patricia,
and then the OCD guy.
Yes,
the OCD guy was really big. In Split. And I feel like, is it Barry? Is that him? No.
Yes.
Is it Barry?
Yeah.
And then there's, who's the little kid? Dennis?
Sure.
I'm bad on the names.
I thought Hedwig was the little boy. Am I wrong about that?
All right, let's find out. Here we
Whatever.
go.
Okay.
Jade, a foul-mouthed teenage girl. Barry is the effeminate
fashion
guy,
designer?
the fashion
He's
guy.
Into fashion.
Patricia is, Hedwig is the little boy. You're right. Sorry.
Right.
Dennis is the OCD creep.
Okay.
Yeah. BT is like the surfer dude.
Because
there's some new ones.
There's a lot of new ones.
There's Samuel who like speaks Spanish.
I mean, that was
Mr.
the first
Pritchard who's like, hello, I'm Mr. Pritchard.
The first thing I told Ben was like, you're going to be happy because there's a 10-minute sequence where they literally just cycle through.
Right.
I loved it.
Yeah.
They didn't go with any of the my predictions.
No.
And I thought there were some really good ones. I was hoping like a pirate showed up.
This guy, David. This guy. Where did we ever find him?
BH? I get it. I drove him here this morning.
Did you really?
In my motor car. Yeah. because we live near each other.
That's really sweet.
And
Nice.
he gets in the car and he's like, I've been like, what are you doing? He's fucking wired. This guy. He's probably just like
Drank a bunch of
put coffee in his butt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
I
like,
chug coffee.
I don't know, I made a meme this morning. I'm making a meme right now where you send someone a picture of iced tea and then they got to go get a Smirnoff Ice because like they've been
He
iced.
got I
And I'm
didn't
like,
realize.
what?
I didn't realize he's been doing like nonstop Instagram stories on
our feed.
just of who he parties with on a
just
night-to-night
him and like
basis.
Chingus. No, that's Doughboys. Whatever your
Changston.
Yeah, Changston. Like whatever your Jersey guys.
He's
are
hanging
named,
out
like,
with like Kavanaugh's buddies. Named Flippy and
Okay, no.
Ripsack.
Let's take it easy. All right. I'm not hanging out with bad boys.
No, you have good, upstanding friends like us. So yeah, the movie's starting out, and it's like very much like, here's what old Mr. Split's up to, still terrorizing people.
Right.
They're trying to find him, and then I think some pretty good like, okay, here's the status quo for who I've always called security. That was what I I feel like fans have done him, but in this they call him the overseer.
huge mistake.
I think so too.
Huge error. One,
I don't think it's a great name.
it's not a great name. Overseers, has a problematic connotation to slavery. So I mean, I'm sure this was not intended, but it's got that vibe to it.
There was another name they'd like throw out in the movie where Spencer Tree Clark is
There's
like
a lot-
running
he-
down all the
he
things people have been
throws
calling.
down-
But there's one that's like the green something.
The Green Ghost or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I just thought security was so good because
I love
it's so
security.
great in the first one. When
Should have
you
been the
see-
Peeper.
Yeah. Should have been called the Peeper.
Nothing problematic about that.
No, certainly not.
But I like when I'm watching this movie. So we saw this together at
Yeah.
a press screening.
Yes.
Before you went to on vacation.
Yes. And I'd say the screening was like 50% press, 50% general public.
Yeah, they
there was a
had
long
some,
line of people
some-
trying to get it.
Yeah. There's they always try and fill up the theater so
Right.
that we have a more active crowd. For
So
a movie
we
like
saw
that.
it with a mix, and I feel like they started getting more and more silent as the movie went on. Now this feels like the
100%.
kind
There
of
was
movie
also a strange incident where someone was kicked out of the theater for air drumming along to the movie.
was clapping a lot, and was
Yeah.
mirroring things that James McAvoy did on screen,
Yeah.
and then
Just
jumped over the
somewhat
seats and said
uncomfortable,
"fuck
right.
you all,
Right. Yeah.
you won't let me enjoy this movie."
Yeah.
But then when we were walking,
Oh, yeah,
people
sorry
were like,
about
"That was
that.
the best part of the movie." I feel like this is the kind of movie where certain screenings you can have the old Shyamalan effect, where by the last 30 minutes the entire audience is laughing. It feels like a movie that is doing such weird things
Right.
with such earnestness.
Our audience was more just quiet,
They were
which
just
is what
muted.
I've heard from other people too. Is just at the end, kind of
Confused.
scattered claps, confusion, right?
Well, the last 40 minutes, too, you're watching it and you're like, I know they're not giving me all the information. I know M. Night's doing something.
Sure.
If not a twist per se, he's
Right.
withholding shit.
And then M. Night's here are a bunch of twists, but isn't the real twist within us or what? You know what I mean?
Right. The twist was in us all
Oh,
along.
I would like to say at my screening, it was definitely a date night.
Oh,
It's kind of and
hey man, it's a holiday weekend. I mean, this movie's opening at 50 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
throughout this movie, there was a bunch of boys explaining the other movies to girls.
Oh,
that
boy.
So guys were like, it's a good idea for this girl who might let me kiss her.
Yeah.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to
Yes!
take her to a movie that's you have to have seen the
have
prior one. So
Right, right.
the whole time I just kept hearing
So they're
multiple
this
guys.
guy's
so
multiple
the thing is, he's many guys. And it's just
Right.
oh my God.
But it's also that's the whole thing is this whole movie is him deconstructing the audience's expectations for this movie.
Yep.
So if you go in with no expectations, you're just why is this guy yelling at me?
The other
I
thing-
just tried to order a coffee.
The other thing to your
The barista's screaming at
to
you.
your sister's question,
These beans aren't locally sourced.
to your sister's question is
Yes.
the Anya Taylor-Joy character. If you watch this without having watched Split,
Yeah.
you might not even register that she had once been an enemy of the Horde.
Yeah, that she's the final girl.
Because the movie kind of shows up and she's like, thanks so much for helping me through a lot of stuff when you kidnapped me and ate my friends.
Gotta save this guy. It
You
almost,
ate Haley Lou Richardson's tummy.
it almost, which is no good, very bad. Don't do
it.
She's a sweetheart, national treasure. I was gonna say, this movie almost treats her relationship to Kevin Wendell Crumb like Emma Stone with Bradley Cooper, where she's
Right.
like, he's broken, but
I
there's
get it.
greatness somewhere
I
in this
get it
guy.
with this guy,
Yes, he's a
right.
fixer-upper, certainly, but so he's got an extra toe.
Right. His toe's so weird. Remember Bradley Cooper was in Aloha?
Remember Aloha?
It's about this guy.
It's about this guy. I kind of feel like we should do an Aloha screening. David's thinking.
The only problem is the fucking that she's Asian in it. That just sucks.
Yeah, you're right. That's the only problem.
No, I'm just
with
saying,
that.
like,
No, I know
literally with, like,
what you're saying.
actually recirculating that film.
Did you
know
hear
what
that
I mean?
thing where Sandra Oh at
Of
the Golden
course,
Globes
and
made her joke?
Emma Stone screamed, "I'm sorry."
Off camera,
Off-camera.
like she apparently stood up in the theater and screamed, "I'm sorry."
I mean, at the Globes, everyone's been drinking for hours before the show even starts,
Yeah.
and so I think maybe she was drunk.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny.
I do too. I think that's cool. So this movie, you're flipping back and forth between them. I like the setup they set up of just like, this is how Bruce Willis has been functioning in the 19 years in between. He's been keeping a pretty low profile, but the internet's tracking onto him more and more. He's kind of a Batman-esque myth where people are like, this is like a nonsense thing.
He's
this
weird.
is like a Slender Man online rumor.
But you also have this notion that he like never graduated past like low-level vigilante. Like he mostly just kind of like cleans up the streets a little bit.
And you also, I feel like, get the vibe that he probably wouldn't even have kept that much up if not for his son,
Right.
who has become
His
his
son's,
sort
like,
of
into it.
oracle
Right.
figure.
Yeah.
Audrey has died, which is a bummer.
It's a bummer. My guess is Robin Wright Penn was like, I'm not going to be in that movie.
I think so too. And when they like start out so much with him still trying to get over the sadness of her death, I was like, this is going to have some story purpose.
Yeah.
It's going to be something that builds into his character. And it just kind of feels like Robin Wright didn't want to do the movie.
Yeah. She was just like, I'm making House of Cards. I'm busy.
She's so good in Unbreakable, and I
You
feel like
love
that
her in that
relationship
movie.
is such a big thing. And the main Unbreakable theme, which they keep on reusing in this movie because it's a different person doing the score, because it's not James Newton Howard, in the end credits, they keep on crediting as if they were separate songs, the times where they use James Newton Howard's score.
Yeah.
And I think pointedly, the most famous track from the Unbreakable score is called Carrying Audrey, because the moment where the hero theme really kicks in is when he like carries his wife up the stairs and is like, I'm going to save this marriage. It's such a good fucking movie. But yes, his son's functioning as the Oracle. He runs a security company. He saved M. Night Shyamalan's life.
So in a way, Bruce Willis is daddy in this movie.
Bruce Willis is daddy in this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I like their whole sort of...
Could I get some daddy points?
You get daddy points.
2 daddy points.
Sure.
It's a smart...
Nice.
What are you going to do with him?
Well, you get for each point, you get 5 minutes of silence.
On mic?
Well, no, just I get now in the world quiet time.
Okay, cool.
You get 5 big pieces of chicken. I'm trying to what are dad things?
Daddy things.
Yeah.
I've talked about Papa executive privilege time on this podcast, right?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
My
Your
mother would
dad?
sleep in. My father would wake Jamesy and I up. This was before Romley was born. And he'd set us down at the table with like our cereal and be like, okay, 20 minutes, Griff, you have to switch over Cartoon Network to ESPN. And then he would go, don't bother me. It's Papa executive privilege time. And he would go into the bathroom with a mug of coffee and 6 newspapers and just shit for 45 minutes. He would shit and read the newspaper with a cup of coffee. Like I'm loading it in just as it's going out for 45 minutes. And then he would come out and he'd be like, okay, time to get in the car. And it was just called Papa executive privilege time.
I for one, that's
Those are what you
literally-
cash daddy points
It's
in on.
literally like out of Portnoy's complaint.
Yes.
Like what you just told
Yes.
me. 2, it does feel like that thing like a dad would figure out where he's like, look, I'm used to shitting all the time. Now I've got these kids, you know, you gotta figure out, you gotta just pick a window.
And they clearly made a deal, my father and mother, where it's like, you're taking him to school every day. I'll let
Sure.
you sleep in. I'll take him to school before the office.
Right.
But here's the one thing. I got to take a solid 45-minute shit and read all 6 newspapers and drink like 4 cups of coffee.
And you and your brother would just sort of sit quietly and like watch television?
Yeah, sometimes we'd yell out like, he's not changing the channel. And James
Right.
would be like, they're up to 2 on SportsCenter countdown.
Right.
They'd be like, Griff, let him get 1. You'll get 10 extra minutes tomorrow. You know, whatever I want to watch, like Angela Anaconda or like whatever was on at 7 a.m. And he would just open the door and there would just be the strongest smell of coffee and shit wafting from this bathroom to give his official ruling on the TV time. This is the 200 episode content people were asking for. Papa executive privilege time. That should be a Patreon tier. Is Papa executive privilege time. But that's why
I'm sorry, I've just been devastated, but it just laid me real low. It's great.
there are all these things my father did, which I didn't realize
Whew,
were
I need
so
more water.
funny, where I was like, that's
Right,
a
right,
bit
right.
he's doing for himself to call it executive privilege time.
It's a good bit.
No, anytime I smell coffee, I think of my father shitting.
Jesus.
And it's not a thing I reveal a lot because it makes it weird that I drink as much coffee as I do. But that's my immediate trigger.
Is that why you get raspberry coffee to sort of like cover the smell?
I kind of think so. I haven't untangled it until now, but I think you're kind of right about that. That's why I get weird artificially flavored coffee.
Interesting. All right, so that's.
I was gonna say a thing I like in the good Shyamalan. Like, let me explain the rules of a real world superhero. There's a pretty smart system that he doesn't over-explain in this, where it's like, oh, they run a security company. They install cameras, so they have eyes everywhere. Yeah. So Spencer Treat Clark can be this oracle.
Yeah. The other thing is they're laying the groundwork for the final thing.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very into the security camera videos thing in general.
Right,
surveillance.
Where he keeps on cutting in these shots of people installing them, and you're like, where the fuck is this going? It's that Shyamalan thing. Yep. And I will say, like, for better or worse, it was fun to be in a Shyamalan movie. And Split had a bit of this too, where, like, this was the thing with him. You'd sit forward and go, like, where is this guy going?
Right.
Like, whether or not you liked the movie, you knew that Shyamalan was always going to try to throw you off his scent.
Yeah.
So you're really leaning forward trying to crack the thing.
With this movie, I really was. Well, at the first I was like, no, okay, I get this.
Right.
And then there's the big showdown in a warehouse.
Happens 45 minutes in, right? The first 45 minutes, these two guys sort of dancing around
David does
each
this
other.
thing where he like walks around and bumps into people to try and see if they're bad.
Gets the glimpses.
And and he bumps into old James McAvoy.
And we get a couple cuts of Sam Jack, but he's just done. They've done experimental procedures on him. He's got a scar on his head. He's dead. He's nonverbal. He's slumped over in a wheelchair.
And they have the showdown. I guess the only thing I thought about the showdown was this is happening early, so clearly. But I've seen the trailers, so I know they're all going to end up in
the posters, the three of them
bed.
in the chairs. Like, we know that's where it's going. But this really does feel like a final battle. In the vernacular we know of how these superhero movies go, it doesn't feel like Whiplash at the racetracks. Right. It feels like the final Stark Expo thing.
And of course, in the story terms, what's happening here also is like, the Horde is so intrigued by this unbreakable man. Like, who is this?
Finally,
it's another person like me, right?
And you get some great, like, the Horde, like, throwing the table and Mr. Unbreakable catching it.
Yeah.
Can I just call him Mr. Unbreakable from here on out?
That's fine.
Can you please get me a bottle of water?
Yeah.
I love you. You're my friend. So then they're fighting. They get knocked out the window, and there's a line of police cars, and you get, like, a real, like, underlined movie star intro for Sarah Paulson. Like, he's really putting attention on this is an important character.
Dr. Ellie Staple.
Yes. And this is where the movie sort of starts, like, completely, like, imploding, exploding, pulling the brake, like, everything.
Uh-huh.
And then you essentially get to the three of them in a room. They're assigned to their separate rooms. You get the systems of Mr. Unbreakable's in, like, an impenetrable steel box.
But no, with water. He's surrounded by showers.
Right, and he's got showers. Yes. Mr. Split is in a room with a light will trigger the characters if he moves past a certain point. Mr. Glass is just brain dead at this point.
Sadly.
But she puts the
Guess
three
he
of
won't
them,
be in the movie.
She puts the three of them in a room that's like a really aggressive pink, which apparently is a real psychiatric trick that mental institutions used to use. This shade of pink that kind of drives you crazy and placates you at the same time.
Can I also
to try to neutralize violent threats?
Can I read some Shyamalan?
Please.
This is Shyamalan's tweets.
Yes.
I chose ochre or mustard, the beast.
Mm-hmm.
McAvoy's always in yellow.
This is very much a color scheme movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
He likes colors.
Right.
He always has. Because this color is associated with religion, Buddhism, Hinduism, a monk's robe.
He does with the shaved head and the yellow scrubs. He
I
looks
see the beast as an
yeah.
evangelist, a preacher who wants to save the broken.
Wow.
I chose purple for Mr. Glass because this color has been associated with royalty, majesty. Elijah sees himself as important.
And the purple's in there very much from the first one.
And I chose green for David Dunn because it is life-giving. David is the protector of life.
Yeah.
As the characters believe in the comic book world, the primary colors in the film are dominant. As they stop believing, it becomes monochromatic. The pink room, red fading to white, is like them stopping
it's
believing.
the midpoint. Okay,
yes.
Interesting.
I'm sure you're right, too, though. I'm just saying.
When they cut,
I like that.
Yes. When they cut to the clips from Unbreakable, you remember, like, that movie is, like, almost in black and white. Like, it's so
monochromatic.
muddy, monochromatic. And this is immediately jarring when suddenly they're like bright primary colors.
Yes.
Because even Mr. Glass is purple in Unbreakable, but it's like a desaturated
Very
purple.
deep. Yes, very dark.
Right. In this, they're going like super bright. When you get to this room and suddenly the movie like grinds to a halt in a way that I think you and I found exciting.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, why isn't
What's
this
happening
movie
now?
doing what I
this movie
paid
just
for?
talking?
Yeah, I thought this was a superhero movie. Now they're in jammies and they're talking.
Right.
To be fair, the subtitle of Glass is Jam Jam Time.
It is a Jam Jam movie.
Time for jammies.
And Sarah
Soft
Paulson
clothes.
essentially has like a 10-minute monologue
Yeah.
where she explains that now in culture, there's an increasing phenomena of people believing they're in a comic book and using it to justify their actions.
Right.
Ordinary things that they perceive as being extraordinary, but also, and this is what's kind of interesting, and this is where I start to like retroactively accept Split a little more, all the things that may be uncomfortable with Split, that it's this people trying to find meaning in trauma and horrible events.
Yes. Now this is like as we debated in Split. It's
Yeah.
it's highly sensitive stuff that he's just kind of like throwing in the blender and pressing pulse.
Which especially when it comes to Mr. Split, what you just said that he views him as this like religious figure of like
Right.
trauma being this purifying thing, that they're pure now, him and Anya Taylor-Joy, because they've experienced more pain.
No, of course that's just what Mr. Split thinks. It's not what Shyamalan thinks.
Right. Now in Split, I was like, what does Shyamalan think this?
Right,
and in this,
right.
it's clear because you have three contrasting viewpoints.
Yeah.
4 if you include Ellie, right?
Right.
That it's like these are people who are trying to find meaning in the seeming meaningless of their major life events by ascribing them mythic status. These are inciting incidents. These are origin stories. These are the inciting traumas, you know?
Right.
So then I'm starting to really get in on this fucking thing. Because she starts questioning not only the movie you've been watching, but the last 2 movies, and saying, "What if none of that happened?"
Right.
And just M.
It
Night
is
Shyamalan,
kind of
the
an impressive
filmmaker,
performance
is
from her.
showing. I think she rules in
because
this.
it's like she's saying like, Mr. Unbreakable, you're not unbreakable. This is all in your head. You're just like, you had this traumatic injury when you were young.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, and I'm like, maybe she's right. Even though I'm like, I saw Unbreakable. He's
Right.
unbreakable.
And she's
He was
like-
in the train crash.
Right, but she's like, your weakness is water. Like everyone drowns, you know?
Sure, right,
like
right.
you're just freaked out by it. And the other thing is, I think she cites like the sort of mother gaining the adrenaline when a child is trapped
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, because you convinced yourself you were unbreakable, you were able to do these things because of the adrenaline rush you gave yourself, and because you're not stopping yourself in a way that most normal people would.
Right.
You know, like Mr. Split, those bars were old and rusty.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But that's the thing. When she says the bars thing, I'm like, she's just talking to the audience. She didn't
Right.
see that.
Right.
You know, like she's talking about a specific shot from Split of
Yeah.
him pulling the bars.
She's talking
apart.
about wet shells, the shotgun shells.
Yeah.
Right. Anya Taylor-Joy said that, you know, he was crawling on the ceiling, but then when they when they stole his computer, they found rock climbing videos, so he might have just studied that. I mean, I just like that she's immediately going like, you guys are ascribing meaning to everything.
Right. But can we talk about the twist here?
Yes, which is?
Well, that she knows they're for real.
Oh, you want to talk about the end twist here. Yeah.
I'm just saying people who are listening have seen the movie. Hopefully.
Right.
And what she later reveals is like, I'm fucking with you guys. I know you're superheroes. I am responsible for getting you guys out of the world.
There's a secret society of normies that have been trying to keep a damper on extraordinary things.
Right.
That comic books, as Sam Jack has been implying with all of his monologues across 2 films,
right.
are us trying to make sense of these phenomenons the same way we wrote stories about Greek gods. That there are these exceptional things, and perhaps we heighten them into a way that is somewhat different, but it's our way of rationalizing people who have extraordinary abilities in one way or another. You know?
Mm-hmm.
People who are extraordinarily handicapped or powered in their lives.
Okay.
It's the same thing. When you can't make sense of the abnormal, be it good or bad, you try to make it into fantasy. But that fantasy is based in reality. And she's arguing the opposite, but in fact is really fighting for the truth,
right?
Which is we need to make people think they're not capable of doing things so these mutants know their place,
right.
Both good and bad.
Yep. And that's why the 3-leaf clovers.
Which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And like I've seen people be like, you know, the twist in this movie is one of those classic bad Shyamalan twists. A twist for twist's sake.
Nope.
Underwhelming. What? No, it isn't. It's insane.
It's baked into the cake,
bananas.
and it's insane.
It's not insane in the way where it's like you're watching a movie about, Mr. Hot Dog, and then it turns out Mr. Hot Dog is
actually a hamburger.
Winston Churchill.
Yeah,
and you're just like, and the movie is just like, it's just an entirely different thing. One of those bonkers twists. But like, it's still a crazy thing to make the third act reveal of your third movie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And also, the second act reveal is maybe the last two movies were bullshit.
Right. And the third act reveal is like, no. They're real.
Right, so it's not like a twist for twist's sake. Like, our friend Bill Gabiri had seen, friend of the show, had seen this movie earlier than us, and you asked him what he thought, and he said, it's like Unbreakable and Split are fighting each other. Two movies are fighting each other. But the whole movie just feels like a bunch of different arm wrestling matches between whose character is in control, what type of movie is in control. And so the end twist isn't arbitrary. You're explaining what people's motivations were, but it's all part of this one thing the movie is about, which is our relationship between mythology and reality.
Yeah.
And what lies in the middle, Are we projecting incredible things onto our life because we love mythology? Or is mythology the way we process the things that can't be explained in reality?
Yeah.
Which is a crazy thing to make a movie about and gets me rock hard. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Okay, let me see who this is. Creek. It is amazing to meet you. It is simply extraordinary. Maybe this will all make sense if I explain who I am. My name is Dr. Ellie Staple.
Hi, Ellie.
I'm a
I recognized you the second you came in.
My work concerns a particular type of delusion of grandeur. It's a growing field. I specialize in those individuals who believe they are doing an ad read. Now, do you want to talk through this?
Well, I just wanted to talk to you about how life can be stressful. It's hard to find time for yourself.
Of course, I understand
someone
that.
to talk to. Person who can support us through rough patches, the ups and downs of life. And in my opinion, that's where Talkspace comes in.
Wow, this is the worst case I've ever seen.
Oh, so you're saying you don't know that Talkspace is therapy for how we live today, where it's like a mobile, it's available when you need it, it's affordable.
Of course, I know that, but there's an easily explainable answer for this. You're just a proud customer. You're not someone being paid to do an ad read.
No matter what you're going through, Ellie, you're not alone. There are 1 million people who feel happy with Talkspace. You don't have to visit multiple therapists to find the right one. The Talkspace matching process is going to take your unique preferences into account and find someone whose style and expertise matches your needs.
Is it possible? Have you ever considered that you are simply a paying customer trying to convince yourself that you are in fact being paid for using their product?
No, it's a really easy app to use. It's like online therapy. It's affordable. You can just load up the app and talk to someone. You can chat with them, send messages to your dedicated therapist from the privacy of your advice, have a live video session anytime you want to talk things out.
But David, we stole your laptop. We found on your hard drive hours of the HBO series In Treatment. Is it possible that you've been watching videos of people in therapy and telling yourself that you, in fact, are in therapy as well?
No, I don't think so. 1 in 5 children deal with a mental health issue in their lives, and that's why Talkspace is now offering counseling to teens aged 13 and up. I think that's great. So there are more than 3,000 licensed therapists who are experienced in addressing the challenges we all face. So to match with your perfect therapist for a fraction of the price of traditional therapy, go to Talkspace.com/check.
The bars were already weak and rusted. Anyone could bend them.
Well, make sure you use the code CHECK to get $45 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's CHECK, Talkspace.com/check, $45 off.
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm going to go out to the hallway and turn on the water.
All right. Ben, can you make sure she doesn't mess with the water?
Well,
who do you think hooked up the water system?
I kind of,
the wet bandit himself. No, he wants a soaking wet studio.
I like the sprinkler on.
Okay.
So now the movie has kind of ground to a halt.
Yep. Because, not only that, Mr. Glass has still not done anything.
No.
He's just sitting there drooling.
Right, and you're like, this is a real Anne Samuel L. Jackson performance.
Right.
Because I don't think he talks until maybe minute 90.
Yeah. How did you feel about it, Ben?
At this stage in the movie, I'm losing interest.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think this is where it loses most people.
Yeah. Because once the rules of then her setting up, like, maybe you aren't super you
Right.
know, and you're kind of questioning, you know, and then also you have no idea where this is going.
And you could imagine this being a Shyamalan final twist. You see a full superhero movie, and at the end they go to the asylum, and she says, "None of that was real. It was all in your head. Here's the video of what it actually looked like in reality."
Honestly,
Right.
didn't know. I thought
Yeah.
I really could not see where it was going.
Because you know there's so much more movie left, and you're like, how do you get over this hump of just stopping the movie dead in its tracks?
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I think it's crazy that this is what he decided to do with this movie.
It's insane.
I like it. I like that he did it. It's crazy that he decided to do this with this movie.
Yeah. Now this is when it starts to
Do you
shift.
think he always was going to do this with this movie? Because
I
he
don't
always
know.
had the first Unbreakable script
Right.
that had the Horde as the enemy at the end, you know,
Right.
and he was like, "That's too much. Make that another movie."
Yeah.
But do you think he was always like? Because he would always say like, "Oh, it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
Like this is the last part."
Well, he had also said at some point, like, I had an idea for what maybe would be an Unbreakable sequel, and I'd maybe do it as one of those Night Chronicles movies. I mean, I feel like he had a lot of sort of like half ideas.
Right.
But I think there probably was a more conventional trilogy in his mind when he was writing Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Of like rise, peak, fall,
Right.
you know, of a hero. I mean, that was his whole point, was that Unbreakable was just the first act of what is usually a superhero movie.
It's an origin story, but all three movies are origin stories.
That's the crazy thing.
That's one of his twists.
Yes.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out, I guess someone had been re-listening to our Unbreakable episode, and I said in that,
Ben has to put this episode out now.
I know, I was so unbreakably upset at the time that he wasn't making two more films,
Right.
but that watching it in 2016, whenever we were doing that episode, I felt like it's good he never made the sequels, because the sequels would never actually be satisfying.
Yeah.
The most exciting thing is to see this guy rise, and then to see him end up in a generic superhero, Avenger, vigilante movie
Right.
would be kind of boring. I don't think it has the characters made such a big emotional growth. You know, that's what the movie's really about, is him accepting himself. That the second one would just feel like a generic thriller, maybe. And this is just him being like, I have no interest in doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I want to show you a little bit about how this
Yeah,
guy's been living in the 19 years in between. You understand the system of his
I'll
like
give you one
crime
fight.
fighting. Right. How he works with his son, all of this. But then this movie, starts to shift a little more over to Sam Jack, which is weird because at this point he still is nonverbal, and shift over to the three people they each have on the outside.
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy for Mr. Split, Mama Glass for Mr. Glass.
Yep.
And what's his name? Jacob?
Joseph Dunn.
For Mr. Unbreakable. And they're all trying to figure out what's going on. And are literally, there's a scene where you went to the bathroom where Joseph and Anya Taylor-Joy are like in a comic book shop at the same time. They don't know each other.
Right.
And they're both studying comic
Yeah.
books, literally staring at covers, looking for clues, like looking for meanings of how to
someone's
interpret
like,
the story.
This is where I was like, I can be here. Where like the guy is like, well, the first comic superhero is
Right.
Action Comics #1 or whatever. You know,
That's
like
the crazy thing, is that Unbreakable literally opens with like 12 title cards of being like, there
People
are
do
4
buy
comic
comic
books
books.
published per minute. The average comic book has 32 pages
you
and
know,
4 staples.
Shyamalan talks about that, where like when he was making Unbreakable, Disney was like, can you not say comics much? Like,
Yeah.
that's for dorks.
It's for bibbies.
And it really feels like he's making this movie with that mindset, without,
Yeah.
still in place. Not like everyone knows about this shit now.
Well, you were saying also, like, walking out of the theater, you were like, this movie feels like M. Night Shyamalan arguing that he invented the comic book movie. That, like, every superhero movie of the 21st
He's indebted
century
to Unbreakable.
has
yes.
been part of the Shyamalan cinematic universe. And that it's born out of our, like, common delusion, like our cultural
Right.
delusion.
But then at the end, he's like, no, I was just kidding.
yeah.
They're great. And we all have to believe. It's like literally like fucking Peter Pan. Like the more
Right.
people see it, the more they believe.
You know, I will say that the Secret Society,
Mhm.
that feels like a newer kind of invention for the genre.
Very much so.
Because they have no motivation, really.
Yeah.
Usually it's power, money, but what's driving them is status quo. It's weird. It's
Look, there's a basis. I feel like we haven't seen stuff like that before in superhero fiction, right? I can't think of a comic book that's ever even introduced an idea like that, because usually secret organizations comic books are like, the Hellfire Club. Like they are also mystical and powered.
Yeah, totally.
And they're just trying to use it for their own gain or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But this notion of like, it's very like current political climate of just like, are people literally just trying to like convince the citizens of their country to not want,
Right.
to not ask for more, to be comfortable being given a shit hand?
Oh, I read it as PC culture.
Really?
No.
Cool. Thank God.
They're the woke police.
Yeah, they're the woke police.
No one can have fun.
Yeah.
Like can't people just get on stage and tell jokes? Like, why can't comedy be funny anymore?
I know.
It just drives me crazy.
Well, and it's not like laughter is sort of an involuntary response where if something is truly funny, you will laugh at it. And if you're not laughing, maybe it's a bad joke. Maybe it's because it's based in a fucked perspective.
But when you see a guy up there and you're like, what is he gonna say next? You know?
Hickory dickory dock.
Okay. What? Wait,
Hey, Jack
where's
and
this
Jill
going?
went up a hill. 250. I can't remember.
250
with a buck and a quarter, right? That's
Yeah. Look, David, I don't know if you know this, but the job of a comedian is to say the things that the rest of us are
truth
afraid
teller.
to say.
It's a truth teller.
You
You're
have
right.
to dig
You're
into
right.
the
You're right.
psyche. You have to be walking that tightrope.
And and there are the 3-leaf clovers out there who are trying to keep you guys quiet. But you're out there telling the truth, and I'm thankful for it. I really am. Yeah. I go to the Comedy Cellar for all my truth telling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just do think it's a crazy, like, folding back in on itself thing to be like, this movie is about normal people trying to like it's almost like a white supremacy thing where you're just like using culture to constantly be like, and of course we know the white man is is superior to all others. Mm-hmm. That is the status quo. Everyone else know their place. You know?
Sure. Yeah. You took that in a direction I didn't see you taking it. But
I don't know.
What was I going to say though? Oh no, it's a little like Syndrome from The Incredibles to carry on The Incredibles perspective.
Yes.
He's different in that he wants to be superpowered and he wants everyone to be superpowered.
Right.
So whereas they want just all normal, only basics.
Right. And what I like about this as opposed to like what Incredibles 2 is doing where it's like, okay, like Odenkirk and Keener are like representing different sides of this sort of argument, but the heroes are going on unabated, you know?
Right.
They're sort of just like pawns in this game they don't even know they're part of. In this mid-chunk of the movie where the thing grinds to a halt, it's all these characters starting to really like question themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And their reality. And the audience like questioning. I mean, it's a weird thing to like make an audience see a movie that you've been building up with 19 years of like expectations and hopes and dreams, and then halfway through be like, why do you fucking idiots want to see this movie?
It's a weird move. Weird move for the end of your trilogy.
Right, it feels like it's shaming the audience for paying to buy a ticket to the movie they want to see.
Here's what I think. Once Mr. Glass is waking up and starting to be Mr. Glass,
you see something's going on.
I get real excited.
I do too.
I'm not bored at all at this point.
No,
you know?
and now it's really like a chess moves movie where he's doing all these cryptic sort of things. You see him logging onto computers.
Yeah, he's like suddenly in the middle of a hallway and they're like, how'd you get in here, Mr. Glass? Like,
right.
Yeah.
The reveal of like the armrest full of pills in his chair.
I love that.
Like just this like amazing like super villain, super genius thing. And I feel like especially in this day and age where like most superhero movies have apocalyptic stakes, you're like, you rarely do see a supervillain who is just the classic like chess master type.
Sure.
The guy who's just always 6 steps ahead.
Which is what he is. That's his power. He's smart.
Right. The Ozymandias, like, don't you understand? It's already too late. It happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like the thing where he cuts the guy's throat with glass.
Do you know how long it took to find the right piece?
That's
what he says.
Yeah, doesn't he swear? Like,
maybe.
I forget.
Motherfucker.
I feel like he dropped a
dime.
Word. Is it Luke Kirby he slashes or is it Adam David Thompson?
Well, he kills both of them. I feel like Luke Kirby gets strangled by the beast.
That's right.
He gets crushed. Crush hugged.
Yeah. So it's Adam David Thompson, who someone told me was somewhat Hosley-esque. The sort of tall guard with like a beard.
Okay.
What? Yeah. And he's talking to like the security guard.
Yeah, and he's like, you're gonna wanna. I can't remember. He's having like a whole convo.
His diet. Right?
Is it a diet convo? Remember?
Yes. Yeah. No, he's like talking about like supplements and stuff.
He's Haas adjacent, right?
Yeah, he's Haas adjacent.
It's like if Haas was into supplements.
If I grew up on the West Coast, like if I grew up in North Cal, I would
instead
be
of
that.
in Ditchland.
Ditch World.
Yeah, right. We've already talked about SoCal Benny a couple times, using Hacky Sack as a cover for his drug operation.
Yeah.
on the boardwalk.
Right. But if I was more of a Pacific Northwest boy,
Right.
I would definitely be a hiker, pot smoking, talking about supplements.
Yeah, I mean, chill SoCal dude, like
Like you. You're like Wags, like Mr. Wags.
Wags.
Griffin's wearing his Nick Weiger hot salad.
My hot salad t-shirt.
Did you just get it, or have
I
you
got
had
it.
for a while?
Yeah. I just got it. I was on vacation. I came back and it arrived in the mail, and I put it on for my first day back in New York City.
Just to be clear, guys, this episode's being recorded the day it's coming out.
2 weeks after we saw the movie.
Right, because of Griffin's vacation.
We saw it early. I got on a plane. I
Pretty
landed
much.
late last night. They originally canceled my flight
Cancel your
because
flight
of
because of the
storms.
storms, but then the storm was kind of a big whiff. So I guess.
Although I will say my
it was raining.
I had just been to Disneyland.
Sure.
My plane flight last night, and this will trigger you,
God.
had drops equivalent to that of the new Guardians of the Galaxy
Are you
ride.
serious?
It had the full we're dropping so fast that my
your
stomach is
goes
rising up.
Fuck.
There were 5 different pockets on a 5+ hour
Was it
flight.
during turbulence or during?
Yes.
Yes. So just when you're up in.
I'd say there were 4 or 5 pockets of extended 10-minute turbulence that were that erratic.
I fucking hate that shit. It really. I had a little bit of.
And I just kept on reminding myself, I was like, if it was that bad, they wouldn't let the plane take off.
No,
Anything could happen, but if it was so apocalyptic, they wouldn't let any planes take off.
Turbulence, which I really hate and really makes me upset.
It was the worst turbulence I'd ever experienced.
Is not very particularly dangerous. There's really never been any significant
No, it's just scary.
problem from
Right.
turbulence.
It's just scary.
It's just scary. But
You would have lost your goddamn mind on this
whimper
flight.
and
I kept
shriek.
thinking about that. Yeah.
But if you think about it, you're 40,000 feet in the air practically. 100-foot drop
You're
would
good.
feel insane.
It
to
feels
you.
like Tower of Terror.
But it's just 100 feet out of
Exactly.
40,000.
Right.
It's anyway.
Yeah.
But was landing okay?
It was a little bumpy. It
Sure.
was a little bumpy. We got it. I mean, it was raining pretty hard by the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Chubby rain.
Got you, suckers.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Well, I have to take a plane in a few days. I hope it's better by then.
I can still say it. Humble brag.
Oh, sure. Right.
You're going to Sundance.
I'm going to Sundance.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think what you were trying to get to was that then, of course, we came in to record today.
Right. Oh, yeah. And Griffin woke up to record today. Right. Yeah. That's how tenuous it's all been.
I was
Right.
jet lagged.
Yeah. You're a
got
jet
in
boy.
late last night.
No,
I
not
ran an
criticizing you.
anti-anxiety medication in LA, which is a great place to do that. And so I got my refill last night, and when you're off it for a couple days, it hits you 5 times harder when you're back on.
Right.
So I just went into a coma and woke up 5 minutes after we were supposed to be recording.
Yeah, that's right. But it was something anyway. This is how close this episode came to not happening, guys.
Really,
is what I'm saying. Right.
We almost bumped up Batman Returns.
We almost were going to have to literally just bump the episode.
Right, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back to the East Coast in time to do this. We're a little loopy, but in a way, maybe this feels like the old days. I mean, maybe no better way to go to hit 200 than to feel a little bit like one. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
It's just the boys. The boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town.
So, what happens at the end of this movie?
What happens at the end of this movie?
So, Elijah really wants to meet the Beast. The Beast is coming out more regularly than before. He'll just show up sometimes.
Right. Elijah finally reveals himself to the Beast at an hour 30.
Yeah.
After you've started to see these suspicious signs, after you start to see their family members sniffing around. What Anya Taylor-Joy, Joseph, what's Anya Taylor-Joy's character's name again?
Casey.
Right. And Mama Glass all go to meet with Sarah Paulson. And you're like, these 3 are uniting. What's he teeing up here? Why is he bringing these 3 characters together?
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of I will say this, whether or not you like this movie, and I feel like a lot of people are turned off by the fundamental choices he made about what story he wanted to tell.
Right.
There's a thing that Shyamalan's really, really fucking good at is giving you an hour plus of movie where you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Right.
And you're still leaning forward to try to figure it out.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about the last act of this
And
movie.
I got that kick in my stomach. Something like The Happening, it's like, I'm tuned out. I don't know if he can save this thing, you know?
Right.
But something like this, you're like, even if it's crazy, you know he's pulling some bigger thing. And with all these disparate pieces that feel so disconnected in a movie that doesn't have a protagonist. And especially at this point, you're cutting between 7 different characters.
Sure.
The 3 in the hospital, Paulson, and the 3 on the outside.
Yeah.
And you're really going back and forth between them equally. Willis, who's the biggest star, is the one who has the least to do.
Yeah, because he's
kind of just given up.
He's the most laid low by the pink room scene. He's
Right.
the one who's really questioning himself The Beast is
Was
obviously...
I doing this because my son wanted me to?
Right. The Horde
my
is
wife died.
many personalities, so some are more interested than others.
Right.
And then Mr. Glass reveals himself.
Yeah.
Glass is the guy in the
He's
neck.
been in control the whole time.
He's been in control the whole time. He meets the Beast. He has the Beast take him through the basement.
He puts on this incredible suit.
He does. He says first name Mr., last name Glass.
God, goosebumps.
There's this red herring in the movie that we keep being teased of some big new tower that's opening.
Which is great. And they kept...
It's
they
called
keep
what's
putting
it
it
called?
on every
Like
news
Yamaha Tower,
Yeah,
Nakatomi
it's like a Nakatomi
Tower.
tile.
Like,
right, so you're like, this is like a nice like Bruce thing. Like it's like the
Yeah,
history of Bruce.
but it also,
Are you going to
like-
have him scale a tower
but there's
again?
this cover that's like a new marvel on the Philadelphia
Right.
skyline.
This is the greatest building of all time.
Another thing I
It's
want to point
Clamp
out
Tower from Gremlins 2.
that I saw someone
The new
talking
badge.
about, on Twitter. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Was the what was I going to say? That like it's so great that he shoots in Philadelphia.
It's great.
Because like all these movies that shoot on backlots and
Yeah.
shoot in Atlanta or whatever and kind of look like nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fun that he uses like these streets and these locations like
And that he's not
properly.
like shooting in Vancouver and pretending it's
Yeah,
New
totally.
York.
No, no,
that
no.
he's like, I want this to look like Philly. It's a specific place.
Yeah.
Like it's such a nice thing when a movie has a real sense of place to it.
Yep.
And it so rarely happens now, especially in like big budget filmmaking.
Right.
It's really a character in the movie.
It really is. Philadelphia is kind of the 8th lead character of this film with no lead character.
Agree. Maybe it's the lead character. But anyway, you think they're going to end up there,
Yes.
but they just have the showdown in a parking lot.
Right. And part of that is a budget thing. You have to imagine.
Totally.
But it's also nice that he gives you the red herring because you're like watching them fighting in the quad, essentially.
When are they going to get to
I like the practical nature of it almost.
I love
that
it.
it didn't have to be in some grandiose sort of like fight area, that
Right.
it was staged very much just like in front of where they've been housed.
I mean, it's a cool location, the house itself and the grounds.
And it's also it's an ideological set piece. I mean, it's them fighting for their own existence. It's them fighting to prove that they are what they think
because that's
they
what
are.
this is. It's like you see the Horde wailing on Mr. Unbreakable. They have their big
Yeah.
fight, and like James McAvoy does his weird sort of like wolf run,
Which is so good.
which I like.
and Bruce bending the steel bars. Like you're getting like these clear daylight. They're already cutting to the security cameras a little bit, or at least cutting to security camera-esque angles, God angles, and stuff like that.
and the and then they like the Horde gets shot by a SWAT team.
Right. Anya Taylor-Joy, they realize at some earlier point is able to get him back to Kevin Wendell Crumb.
Yeah, if she like touches him.
Because her power is like intense empathy.
Yeah, she's an empath.
Right. Which that was one of those things where like walking out of Split, I was like, are they implying that like everyone who's been like abused then gets superpowers out of it, which I thought was gross. But this movie is just like.
But this is the read I use for your Batman Returns read, which is like these people are trying to process these unbelievable
and that's
things
why
that
this
happen
now
to them.
retroactively works for me. I'm not
right.
saying I can watch Split without any speed bumps, but I'm saying I now get the bigger thing he's getting at, which is we want to ascribe meaning to life events that we can't comprehend.
Yeah.
Whether it's the thing that changes us and makes us good or the thing that breaks us permanently.
Yeah.
It's like that's why we want stories that are so elemental about like, here is the inciting incident. That's why we always, like, everyone thinks they have to tell us again that Batman's parents got shot in the alley.
Right.
Because it's like everything is supposed to be some response to that.
Yeah.
So that's where this becomes crazy. Whereas, like, Lady in the Water is just like, I'm the man who writes the stories that change the world. This is him being like, why do we want stories? Like, why do we care about these things? Why do we relate to them?
Right.
Why do we like things that seemingly are so divorced from our own reality?
Right. And a SWAT team comes in and
Right.
it's like, no, you don't want him. Shoots James McAvoy, drowns Bruce Willis in a puddle.
Which they like keep on cutting to the puddle early.
Yeah,
where
and
they're
you're like, they're not going to do this, are
it's
they?
so small. This is such a small puddle.
It's not even a big puddle.
Right.
was pissed.
Yeah. And Mr. Glass, they break him like glass.
I mean, he's easy to beat.
They fold him like laundry. Shout out Burger Boy.
Shout
and
out,
Mitchy Two
Spoon Man,
Spoons.
Spoon Man.
Yeah.
And that's that. Right? And like, yes, there's this moment where I forget who it is that I think he says it to his mother, right? Where he was like, "This wasn't a limited edition."
Because the mother started preaching his thing. Like,
yeah, where she's
don't
like,
you understand? This is a limited edition. The heroes all have to combine and match into each other's aesthetics. Like, she sort of even explains, like, it's a couple different books with different vibes that all need to find a common ground.
Sure.
And the other thing that's happened is, like, Joseph has put together that Kevin Wendell Crumb's dad died on the train.
Right. That is revealed.
Right.
I like that where Mr. Glass is like, well, don't reveal that yet. That's like the big twist. Come on.
That he's trying to control the story.
Right. But like, which Mr. Glass loves that he also created, the Horde.
Right. And like, there's the earlier moment where Anya Taylor-Joy goes to meet with her principal and they're asking her, like, are you holding up okay? Like, that was a pretty fucked up thing where James McAvoy ate your friend's stomach.
He ate her tummy.
And she's like, I'm cool. But when she leaves the office, the camera pans over to Joseph on like the class photo. And you're like, what's the point there?
Right. Yeah.
But he's trying to do that. Like, this is my cinematic universe. And like, people get excited when it turns out that like Bucky's uncle was like, like Ant-Man's teacher or whatever.
Right.
It's the same sort of interconnected thing where he's like, these people are trying to find meaning in these totally meaningless things.
Right.
Because that's the way we like make it through our lives, You tell yourself that like getting left at the altar is the thing that made you change your career. And then you make your million or whatever it is. People like create these narratives where I was like, this is the moment that changed my life. This is the thing I never recovered from. This is what made me. This is the complex because my dad never bought me this. And then I became a that maker, whatever it is.
I get you totally.
And he's doing that in epic scale. And people go all the time. You read 50 dumb think pieces a month that are like, are we becoming too escapist as a culture, that we're not engaging with adult stories and that we're obsessed with these superhero things? There are these insane mythologies that what Brad Bird is kind of trying to wrestle with is, are we trying to avoid any responsibility for our own lives by believing in gods who can just come and fix stuff for us?
Right.
But what he's saying is we project onto them the idea that you can overcome whatever happens to you.
Yeah.
And that it becomes an asset. And worst case scenario, you become a villain. But certainly Mr. Split is more empathetic in this than he is in Split. Because when Anya Taylor-Joy breaks through to him, you're like, this is a broken fucking little child. This is someone who was dealt a bad hand psychologically, a bad hand conditionally, experientially. And is maybe just now like hiding in all these covers, all these characters and all of that. I'm not saying it's an act, but it's the Batman Returns thing. We'll get into it next week in the episode, but it's
a great episode.
These are people born out of trauma in one way or another.
This is Griffin's big read on the movie. It's what we were talking about while critics walked by us being like, wait, you liked that?
Yeah.
Every 5 minutes.
I was giving 2 thumbs up.
Right.
Everyone thought I was doing a bit.
Right.
I literally was going down the escalator with 2 thumbs in the air for everyone to see.
You said, Shyamalan!
He did it!
Yeah.
I started a chant on the street, Shyamalan.
But it's an origin story, not in a limited edition, right? Because even though they're all dead, that's right, he died in a puddle. If you didn't know that.
I
puddle.
know.
What if in like Avengers Endgame, Captain America dies in a puddle?
I'd be the best.
Falls into a puddle and he's like, oh no, I can't get up.
But that's the audacity also of I mean, this thing has always been like one foot in the banal. Like if superheroes were real, these things would be boring in a lot of ways. A lot of the exciting things. I mean, kryptonite is just as dumb as a puddle of water.
Well, right. Especially because the gangsters in the old Superman comics would always be like, hey, Superman, you think you're so super? Hey, give me that box.
Yeah,
and then they'd be like, hey, take a look at this in the box. It's kryptonite.
They just hold a rock adjacent to him.
Like it would be on a little pillow.
Right.
Like, hey, check out this rock. And he'd be like, oh, shit.
Right. And the water thing is silly because it's literally water. It's a real world thing. And a puddle is just kind of a bummer. That's the biggest threat it poses to us in our everyday life. But it's like, that's the thing he's doing. I mean, it really is this like, you know, why do we care about stories? Not just in the media, you know, that we consume the content.
Over here.
But also, like, why do we always try to reduce our own life into
Cleveland Heap over
stories? Yep. Say it 2 more times.
Ben just Googled rock pillow. I don't know
why.
I was thinking, where do you get rock pillows from?
Like a pillow that looks like a rock?
Well, no, for putting your rocks on.
Oh, like in a kryptonite case. That, you know what, Ben? That is very smart and very clever.
Well done. 10 rock points.
Yeah.
10 pillow points.
So this is just like calamitous, and they keep on cutting the security cameras. You can't figure anything out, and it just feels like, well, this is a real bummer way for this movie.
I guess this is the end of the movie. All right.
But then Sarah Paulson starts monologuing. We've cut a couple times to the Clover tattoo because he took the shot that killed the beast.
Yeah,
one of these sniper
the
guys.
snipers have the Clover tattoos. She goes up to, is it Mr. Glass? Who is it that she gives her final speech to?
She says it to Mr. Unbreakable while he's drowning in the puddle. Right. She lies down like on the cement next to him.
And she's like,
tilts her head.
I was trying to do this non-violently, and like, I just, my point is to sort of cut you guys off.
We can't live in a world where people are like you exist.
Exactly. And then we see these cuts to like the secret society meeting, where
the second the one person leaves the restaurant,
meet at like a restaurant.
Yeah, it's incredible. But it's also such a creepy, like, suddenly everyone goes, like, pin drop silent.
I like it.
And the camera does the slow pan around the room until you get to Sarah Paulson. She's like, okay, meeting's in order.
Yes, right.
I would have loved as a gag
yes.
if someone came in to get, like, takeout, and they all had to, like, pretend they were eating again. And then as soon as he left, then they started the meeting
It's
again.
like Toy Story. It's like they have to, like, go limp.
But it's even, I mean, it's like, it's not just he's against superheroes. It's also like people who are born with defects, you know?
Right.
And some of those defects help and some of those defects hurt,
Sure.
But everyone should just be normal. Mm-hmm. And is there really a normal?
Well, I don't know, but according to, all right, so the final twist is they failed.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't suppress these
Mr.
people
Glass
because
had been pulling the strings. He had
Mr.
rewired
Glass
the cameras,
filmed everything,
put it on a drive.
Well, before we, a question I
Send
have
it to
for
the
you,
cloud.
Sims,
Yeah.
is I guess the one thing it was fine that they didn't go there, but with the secret society, I was sort of like, where's the infrastructure? Like, how do they get money? How are they infiltrating the SWAT team?
Well, I wonder if they're like a whatchamacallit, what are the descendants of like the Mayflower? It's like it's a passed down sort of thing where it's just like, well, the meeting times, the places,
right.
Your grandma taught you.
Yeah, this is some Illuminati shit.
Right.
I'm fine with it being the man or Illuminati, but I guess for you, I feel like you're someone
I like rules and I like order and I like mythos and I don't know, maybe he'll make like fucking Glass Origins or something.
He's like, I'm dead done. I want to make original thrillers. This was the last thing I want to make. But you do watch this and you're like, I kind of love a Secret Society movie.
Sure.
Or even like a fucking TV show or whatever
it's just, I figure he's done because the end of this movie is Spencer Treat Clark, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Charlene Woodard sitting down.
They've uploaded all the videos to the
Philadelphia 30th Street Station. They've uploaded the videos.
His favorite location. And now people know what's possible. It's a location where Mr. Unbreakable finally come to terms with being a superhero and stands there. Now they've let the world know that things are possible.
She says it's the beginning of a universe.
And I get goosebumps. I don't know. It's just like part of it is just like...
And then like the credits roll and it says like Unbreakable and Split like as the credits roll.
Yeah.
In like the shattered glass.
Right. James McAvoy is credited for all 36 characters he plays.
Which is funny.
Right.
Patricia, Dennis, Hedwig the Beast, Barry, Heinrich, Jade, Ian, Mary Reynolds, Norma, Jalen, Kat, BT, Kevin Crumb,
Pirate
Mr.
Joe,
Pritchard, Felita, Luke, Goddard, Samuel, and Polly.
Yeah.
Trolley Tom. He would be like an old like hobo type.
Sounds like you're just pitching Garbage Pail Kids cards now.
Yeah.
I like the movie a lot.
Berry.
So this is your number one. You're just like, I love this shit.
Yeah, and I'll say like, look, I don't think it's going to stay number one. I think really good chance it's in my top 10 at the end of the year.
Excited to find out.
This movie is such a Griff thing, And for a guy who grew up so much with Shyamalan, has been so reinvested in his career because of this, I just like, there's no more sort of like, not auteurist, but like, for guys like you and I, right? I mean, this is getting into the whole point of this movie about like how we try to describe narratives and whatever. We like to look at the narratives of these careers.
Yeah.
And this is like the movie that's like the payoff of everything good and bad that's happened to him.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Right. And it's interesting that this movie seems to be, we can talk about the box office, following a night trajectory that's familiar where it's like going to make money.
Yeah.
Definitely got bad reviews.
This is closer to the Village thing. Like
exactly.
Split
might have a bad
well.
drop. Right. Yeah.
I was meeting with people in Hollyweird while I was out there. And I was talking about how weird Glass was, and they were like, so, like, what do you think? What are you expecting, like, box office? And I was like, this is going to be one of those movies where it makes, like, 20 opening day.
Right.
And then it loses, like, 75% of its audience the next day. Like, it's going to, like, people thought it was going to end up at 75. It did, like, 20. It ends the, like, weekend at 50. I think he'll just tap out at 100.
Yeah, maybe.
It'll multiply like 2. And it's still crazy profitable for him. He's got his Blumhouse set up.
Yeah.
He's got his branding. And someone was like, so do you think he's like spent all his capital again? Do you think he's bombed it again? I'm like, no, I think he'll make another straightforward thriller. I think he'll make another fun January thriller and people will be back on board. And I think he's going to like, this is him back in his old like M. Night cups because this is his chance to do it. I think he wants to just be like, here's a high premise thriller I'd strap in. I'm M. Night Shyamalan. And he said in this interview, I don't want to make any more sequels because I want my promise to the audience to be, I'm an original thriller guy. I want you to lock in. I want to give you a scary time.
Give me a scary time, M. Night. You're good at scaring me. I was scared during this movie. I was tense.
I was too.
Yep.
I was scared he was going to fuck it up.
That too. I also like that shot of David breaking down the door. I think that's a great hero moment.
I love all that stuff.
I wish that M. Night would do, but this is also territory that's bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like I like the idea of him doing something like futuristic or science fiction.
Well, after Earth.
I know, but that's the
right,
big budget stuff,
territory.
right?
Yeah,
And so, but I don't know. I think he's such a good storyteller.
Right.
I didn't love this movie, but I like the idea of it, and I think he's a great filmmaker.
See, I agree with you. I would love to see him do like a $10 million space thriller, like something that was closer to like Moon.
I don't know. It'd just be
Do
interesting.
a Moon.
Right,
It'd
like
be
not
so
like a big
interesting.
sci-fi movie, but I feel like a spaceship is a good setting for an M. Night Shyamalan
I mean, I'm always
haunted house
because
movie.
After Earth barely counts as a fucking spaceship movie, and I'm always in favor of the spaceship.
And
movie.
it only half counts as a Shyamalan movie. I mean, it's him trying to serve another master. It's very much his film, but it's not.
No, I agree
right.
with you. I agree. It
Yeah.
sucks. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah.
You'd like The Kid Who Would Be King. You're gonna watch that, right?
The Joe Cornish movie, yes.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm so excited
It's
for
so
that.
good.
And the movie's going to lose so much money, right?
I don't
I
know
just
how
feel
much it
like
costs.
it feels so out of time. Like I remember seeing that. You and I both saw the trailer and we were like, this has to be based on some book or something. And it's not.
No.
So there's no built-in audience for it.
I think Britain, it'll probably do pretty well.
Right. I guess it probably didn't cost too much, but it's weird to see like Fox financing that.
Yeah.
And Joe Cornish, like, one of the best debut films of the last 10 years.
Truly.
And has turned down a lot of big jobs, was on a lot of short lists and either didn't make the cut or turned it down or like was briefly the frontrunner for Star Trek 3 before I think Orsi pushed him out. Before then Orsi got pushed out and then it became the Justin Lin, which is also a good movie.
Good movie.
Right. I just think Cornish it's an interesting choice for him to be like, I'm going to double down on making like a pure kids movie.
Cornish, no, totally.
Not a movie that only kids can enjoy.
You'll
but
love
like,
this. You're gonna love this movie.
I'm gonna love.
I hope you love it. I thought it was really good.
Has Stewart in it.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Small role.
I'm gonna
Good.
get
Really? But good. Okay.
Good.
I'm gonna get on this.
Letterboxd?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be
I'm
all over
announcing
Letterboxd.
it.
Oh, someone asked recently why I was non-letterboxed, and can I give my answer very quickly?
Yeah.
Because people track every single thing David watches,
Correct.
and then they make a post on Reddit saying, oh, now we know what's coming up next.
Sure.
And I said to David, can you just hide when it's miniseries that we're banking way in advance? And
No.
you said, absolutely not. I must log everything.
Yes, exactly.
So I said, cool, then I'm not going to be doing Letterboxd regularly. I'm only going to do it for the new releases I see because I don't want to tip people off. I want to keep some surprises in store. So like you were watching all the Grishams and everyone went like, oh, 100%. You were watching all the Grishams.
Yeah, that's just something I decided to do.
Correct people on Grisham?
Yeah.
No, you just decided to do it and people were like 100% Schumacher. Like they're doing it.
But that's what's fun about it. Throw them off the scent.
Right, but if I'm posting the same things that you are, then they get confirmation. So I don't want to
They
be the
figure
second
it out
source.
anyway,
I don't want to be the
these
second
nerds.
source.
Well, Letterboxd is for me. And that people want to look at what I'm doing on Letterboxd baffles me, but I'm glad they enjoy it.
Right,
or
but
whatever.
that's why I don't want to be posting because I want to keep an air of mystery. I'm the
Ben's
M.
on
Night
it.
Shyamalan of the group, and Ben's on it
getting
too.
Professor Crispy. Not
Right,
Professor
so you'll just see him logging Assassin's Creed twice a week. His favorite movie.
Assassin's Creed is like gym to him. He's just like going to the gym.
Throw in a quick Creed. What was the other thing I was going to say about Letterboxd? Oh, it was crazy. Like we talked
Those are some bad seed boys
Who?
in Assassin's Creed.
bad seed boys.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can't wait to watch
Gotta
this
watch
thing.
out
I
for that.
haven't
Oh,
seen it yet.
We're gonna talk Creed at some point.
Winky
guys. We're
winky.
just- winky winky.
Winky winky.
I'm so excited.
No, I was just gonna say that we were talking the mailbag app, like very vaguely about the future directors we were covering, and immediately like everyone was just like, I think I figured
it's this.
Right, and it's like crazy that everyone figured out that we're doing Penny and Gary Marshall back to back.
Congratulations to them.
Of course, those are the two directors we're covering. You figured it out.
One
for David, one for Griffin. Penny and Gary Marshall.
Yeah, I'm a Penny guy. You're a Gary guy.
Yeah. Exit to podcast.
Writing and podcasts with boys.
Oh, boy. Podwakenings.
A podcast of their own.
Yeah. That is a great movie.
Love that movie.
Both of them have made good movies.
Correct.
Yeah, and a lot of marginal stuff.
All her movies are basic, like fine to good. He's made a lot of movies. She only made like movies. 7 movies.
You're right. She had a better...
Yeah, she was basically usually pretty solid.
Did she do Jumping Jack Flash? She did one of the early whoopies.
Yeah, Jumping Jack Flash.
Right, then Big...
Awakenings.
League of Their Own. I mean, we should go over this because we're going to cover all of these films very soon. I'm tripling down on this.
Awakenings, League of Their Own. Renaissance Man, which I've never seen.
That's Danny DeVito? Yeah.
Preacher's Wife, Riding Cars with Boys.
Weird. Yeah. Yeah, she really... Yeah. The Looker. Do you remember when Armisen would do that sketch on SNL that was her like TNT detective show? And instead of the closer, it was Penny Marshall the Looker, and she would just give people a look with her little sunglasses on the tip of her nose.
No, next week is Batman Returns.
Yeah.
With Emily Yoshida.
Mother of Blankies came on to talk Batman Returns.
It's a great app.
Yeah.
It's a very silly app.
Yeah.
Patreon subscribers will get Incredible Hulk in 2 days, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's a silly app.
Yeah, and that's
from what I remember.
Poopy movie.
Yes, it is.
And then, of course...
it'll actually come out the 21st, so it'll be out at midnight.
Oh, you're getting these like back-to-back.
Yep.
This is a big...
21st? Oh, yeah, I have it wrong. Yeah,
big,
of course. Right.
Big little chunk for you blankies who are putting down the cash. And
put down that cash, Patreon.com.
I mean, let's say what other like sort of housekeeping duties? We got 2 new pieces of merch going up. Okay.
Yep.
Our great friend Joe Bowen has made a new shirt.
We love him.
The 2 friends. Oh, we worked on this design a lot.
You and him had like
a lot. It wasn't contentious, but it was just like we want to offer something different. We don't want to just like what makes the 2 friends shirt different than the main logo thing.
Right.
So it's like a Pep Boys style company shirt.
Right.
It'll look like you're an employee of the 2 Friends podcasting company with our little tagline, it's a competitive advantage. I think it's like a cool, like retro sort of caricatured company logo thing. But also forever ago when we were working on the logo and we were giving Joe the list of all the little Easter eggs we want to put on the desk, we couldn't think of a good M. Night Shyamalan thing before we finally settled on the comic book, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a point where he like tried to draw Haley Joel in there, and we were like, that feels weird because is he a real person or like a toy? And then I was like, put in a scrunt, and David was like, don't put in a scrunt. And I un-CC'd David from the email and was like, please put in a scrunt. He put in the scrunt. You were like, why did this happen? And then cut it. Yeah. And then Joe, a month later, just said, like, look, I just had a lot of fun drawing the scrunt. Yeah, I just did this for kicks. And he made, like, a radical scrunt shirt. Yeah. He made a shirt with a scrunt, like, all poochied up, with a backwards baseball cap and sunglasses and a skateboard. And we've been sitting on it for a while. And it's just a great little tune.
We love that guy.
And we figured, episode 200, we're back at Shyamalan. Shyamalan's done it again.
He has.
We're gonna sell this radical scrunt shirt.
Gonna get sued by M. Night Shyamalan. He's gonna set his scrunts on us.
Do you think he has like a tight copyright on scrunts?
I don't know. Scrunt.
It's a pretty loose thing. So if people ask you, tell them it's not an official Lady in the Water shirt, and you have no idea what it's a drawing of. But it's a fun tune, and we're gonna put it up. It's a great way to support. Jesus Christ, our friend Joe Bowen, and other stuff to talk about. I don't know. We're back on the Burton.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, do you have any general things to say at 200? It's a very weird thing that we've been doing this show for this long and that people take it seriously now.
It makes me very happy. I find it fulfilling.
Yeah.
It is crazy that people listen to this. Like I was like talking to some friend of mine. He was like, "Yeah, I try listening to your podcast sometimes, but like, it's like you guys are just speaking another language, and I just don't know what it is." And I'm like, "Right, yes."
Ben's
answering.
Picking up a phone call. Wait a second. What's that clover on the back of his neck?
Oh, what? Don't worry.
I don't know. I love you guys. I love the listeners, and I love my podcast friends.
I do. I'll say like two things here.
Oh boy.
I saw someone on Twitter like tweet about the show and refer to me as one of their favorite film critics, and I was like, oh boy. Not my job title, right? And it is a weird thing the way this show has evolved, because I more and more have people come up to me
being like, I like your takes on movies.
No, not even that.
Oh,
just go like, that's pretty crazy that you're like working in the film industry and you do a show where you speak so openly about your opinion on things.
But you're a fan.
I'm a big fan. Even Esther Zuckerman asked me, she was like, I always wanted to be a critic because I never wanted to like make the stuff myself.
Sure.
And I don't understand what drives you to have the impulse to do both. And the answer is, we've talked about this a bunch. We started doing this podcast, I thought my career was dead.
Yeah.
And I pretty much was in this thing where it's like, I might have to pivot to something else. Here's a podcast that's just about Star Wars. And even when we moved to the blank check thing, we didn't know what this was going to become. We had a very small listenership. People didn't take our opinions very seriously.
I understand.
Within this show. I'm not saying this is a defense. I'm just talking about
I know.
200 episodes in, thinking about the whole arc of this thing, right? And then during the Shyamalan arc, I got cast on The Tick.
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy. I mean, the time that this has been blank check proper pretty much coincides with this time where I feel like, now people like take me seriously.
Yeah.
Like I look like someone who has a career when I just still feel the same as we've always. I know you don't. That's my point. Is that when we do this show, I think we come to it the same way we've always come to everything, which is like, ideally, we just want to be two friends talking about movies.
We're the two friends talking about movies.
And the hope is that this show feels to people like when you get to hang out at like a diner at 1 o'clock in the morning after a movie and have
I never
talk
would
about it with
want
your
this
friends.
to be like a welcome to blank check.
And you have your platform for your very serious reviews.
I'm so serious.
Yes, and I have a platform for my very serious performances.
But also, I mean, we talked about this. Like, there's the push and pull of like, I'm more of a critic. I'm evaluating the work that I have.
Yeah.
And you're more of a creative person who's like, how could this be fixed? Or, you're often saying like, here's what I wish the movie was doing, or here's, what frustrates me about,
and for us, it's so much about the context. Right. I mean, this show is really just about like, I don't know, the act of talking about movies more than anything.
We're nerds.
Are
we nerds, Ben?
Yeah.
And Ben just...
It's pretty nuts that Ben's involved, too. We've been dragged him into this mess.
Well,
Ben also just spit out the biggest vape cloud in the world, you should say. Don't let that go unmentioned on mic. When you tapped him on the shoulder and he said, yeah, reams of... It was like they announced a new pope out of his mouth.
Well, I would like to say I feel very lucky to get to have worked on this show from the beginning.
It's so fun.
And
we had you here.
Yeah, and I feel like I've weirdly somehow fit into the show because I don't,
we need you there to sometimes be like, what the fuck?
You're the voice of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't see myself as necessarily someone who was as invested in cinema as you guys. I feel like I've gotten more so.
Yeah, I mean, even like this year, like in the last month, you've been like, I'm trying to like run through like catching up on all the movies I need to see before the end of the year.
Yeah.
And it's like you're like seeing the things you feel like you need to see before you do a Blankies episode.
Totally. So I've really changed in that way, but I just think also like for whatever reason, my silly shit, it's fun that I can do it here.
It's really, I don't know. It's just like weird what this show's turned into, especially because of the very specific corner we backed ourselves into when we decided to have a podcast in the first place of the Star Wars thing. And Ben from the beginning was like, you got to think about something that's more ongoing than that.
Right.
But this thing has just kind of like evolved and grown to its own thing. And that's weird to see like when people who listen to our show who also like cite our things where they're like, there's a popular theory that the blank check boys espouse, that we're like cited.
I think we're great. I think that's great.
I mean, I enjoy doing the show and Ben is still vaping. It's just a fun, I don't know, I'm just getting like retrospective here.
Okay, it's like as long as you're getting retrospective, you're going to spook the fans otherwise.
I'm not saying anything bad. I'm not teeing up to some big reveal. I'm not trying to like disown anything.
Sure.
It's just an odd thing what this has become. And it's, I mean, the merch support and the Patreon support, all these things that we were afraid to do for like 3 years, it's nice to see.
Love that Patreon.
I had someone ask recently, can you sign something for my friend? But she's specifically a Judging the Judge fan. And I did a show at Sketchfest in San Francisco, and someone came up to me and
how
went,
was the show?
It went well, but
Great.
someone came up to me at the bar and went, oh my God, are you Flat Stanley? Intensely popular children's book character Flat Stanley. And it is that thing where it's like people come up and they're like, I am such a big fan of AT or T. You know, like they're not like, I listen to your show. They're like, I love this. You know, it's crazy how deep people go into this thing. And I think you and I mean, all three of us were people who always had like big obsessions. We're massive fans of things, our own things. It's very cool and satisfying and surreal to have a thing that people like care about that much. And when you read people like say like this helps me when I'm at work or when I was sick,
my favorite
or,
compliment,
right?
That kind of thing, exactly,
right?
Yes. That like listening to us helps you out in a tough time or helps you get through the day or whatever.
Like we're three broken boys who prop ourselves up with like albums. And comic books
exactly.
And TV
I listen to
shows
podcasts and TV shows.
Right, all
These
this
are my
stuff.
support systems. I'm happy to be a support system for people.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoy listening to us talking.
And we really appreciate it. And we're gonna just try to keep doing what we do.
And we'll just ask. It's always helpful to leave a review or a rating.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's do one of those call to arms things. We're not going to set a crazy goal. Let's set something reasonable. Let's be the #1 podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, #1 podcast of all time.
Right. So everyone, please, really,
iTunes actually carves the rankings into stone. We'd like to be #1.
I want to be on a tablet. That's my thing. And not one of these iTablets.
Oh, I don't know anymore.
Do you remember when that was the rumor that they were going to call the iPad the iTablet?
Came so close.
How lame would that be if let me just check it on my iTab here.
It'd be bad.
It'd be bad.
Leave us a review.
That would be good. If you left us a review, a comment. I mean, this is a week where really, if you like what we do, it'd be nice if you gave us that bump. We got some really good Bert and F's in the can, some really big guests coming up.
Big guests.
I think we said Yoshida's on Batman Returns, but we got some new first-time guests that are true gets.
You've been getting some folks.
And I'm not talking about a
John
divorce
Getz.
in the eyes of Jewish law.
Yeah, not that. Or Blood Simple actor John Getz.
What a good guy.
That's his name, right? Yeah. There he is.
Jesus.
And David cracks himself up.
I do crack myself up. I think that I'm amazing. No, I'm joking. I can't believe anyone ever listens to me talk.
Oh my God, David's drinking a pint of tiger blood. He's got winning tattooed on his chest.
Winning.
What if this is the year where David just goes full Sheen?
I hope not.
Start selling his own Pirate Sims merchandise. Like he wants to monetize only his
You know
brand.
what I want to do
What?
that I don't know how to do is the let's play, like a video game stream.
Yeah.
Because people keep saying like, oh, it'll be funny if you did that. And I keep being like, no, I have artistic thoughts about Super Mario World.
Talk to Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many people you should talk to.
Like
so
someone
many
was like,
people
oh, it's easy.
that
You
can
just get a
help you.
quick screen grabber. And I was like, this seems too hard.
This is very
Someone do this for
gettable.
me.
If someone like teaches you the thing,
Yeah.
you'll and you love
wanna do
money. You're a money-loving money monster.
I
And,
have
and weirdly, I keep on offering.
Pay my credit cards.
Humble brag.
What do you keep offering?
I keep offering to the public to do streaming Let's Plays as well. And for some reason, people don't want to watch me play through one level of Lego Batman for the 18th time in order to get 100% on studs. You know, that's my crazy thing is that
You're a super completist or whatever?
I've almost exclusively played Lego video games in the modern video game era, but I have platinum 100% on all of them.
You're good
They
at
call
those
me the
games.
platypus for a reason, because I go plat, baby. They call me Oliver, because if I start a game, I'm going plat.
All right.
I'm getting a message here. The building is being destroyed.
Yeah, with us in it, we
it's-
can't leave.
it's been a good run.
This is
Thanks
it.
This
for
is
the
deliberate.
memories.
That's it.
Let's be done with this. Thanks for talking glass with me and being my friend, Griffin Newman.
Well, thank you for being my friend, David Sims. Ben, thank you for being my friend.
Thanks,
I
Griffin.
I met both of you at like weird points. We're all at weird points in our life, and
Yes.
we all met individually.
Yes.
And
Sure.
I feel lucky that I mean, truly, if I could get sappy, I feel deeply, truly lucky. You guys are two of my best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're two of the people I spend the most time with, not just the crazy workload we built for ourselves making this show, but we do genuinely like doing stuff together.
Yes.
Like we get
100%.
excited when we get to go like, oh, we're recording and then we're all going to see a movie together. or like getting drinks or bagels or whatever.
Yeah.
I just, when we saw the NGs the other day, like, I just like seeing a movie with you.
It was such a great time. We went to our secret pizza bar, which no one will ever locate.
Never,
People are
ever.
already trying to get
People are walking up and down the streets like Bruce Willis in Glass, bumping into pizza bars, trying to find us.
And here's the fun thing. Some people have had guesses. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong yet. I will never confirm or deny.
Yeah.
We got a secret pizza bar.
Secret. Top secret.
Yes. And it's
All right.
called DiGiorno's.
Yeah.
It's at our home. It's a home bar.
So what's the DiGiorno slogan?
It's not delivery. It's DiGiorno's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah, truly do this week. I guess, I don't know. Is there a bit, like what's a bit that's fun to ask people to do in their reviews, so that it becomes a little creative?
Don't know. I'm tired.
Is there like one like review we should ask? Like one here we go. I got one.
Okay.
Everyone, please copy paste the entire architect speech from The Matrix Reloaded and leave it as a review on iTunes.
That would be pretty funny.
Right?
That's good.
If suddenly we have 100 of those, we're just verbatim, and I know that quote existed because I read the whole goddamn thing.
That's good. That's good. That's
Right?
a good idea. That's good.
So please copy paste the architect speech and give us a gentleman's 5 stars.
Yeah.
Thanks to Lee Montgomery for our theme song.
Yes.
And a theme song that I threw it to him like 2 days before we started the show. I was like, we should have something.
Right.
And he said, what should the theme song be? And I said, I don't know. We're rebranding the show. I don't really know what it's going to be, but the show's called Blank Check.
Don't know what to expect.
He ran with it. He made a song based off of me telling him, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
And it's a banger. It's a good song. People send us videos of babies dancing to it.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Thank Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. Both people who just did artwork we loved on the internet and said, hey, you want to come on board?
We love them.
Ange, who was intern back at the UCB days, and we did the same thing where both Dave and I said to you, Ben, who's the one making the Space Gams Photoshops? Someone clearly in this office listens to the show.
Yeah.
And Ange is the best. We're going to get her on an episode soon. She was going to do Aquaman with us.
She couldn't.
Unfortunately, can't. But
she'll be on an
I think we're going to try to make a girls' night happen for What Men Want.
Yeah.
So we'll do a boozy Ange episode post What Men Want on the Patreon feed.
Right.
So those are my extra little bonus shout outs to our Blank Check family.
Mm-hmm.
Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit. And one of the things that makes me most proud about this show is when I read our threads and people are talking about I can't believe they didn't get into this in the Edward Scissorhands episodes. And they're amazing critical takes of things that I would never thought of.
Makes me so happy.
It's exciting to see.
I like that. Yeah,
a community where people are coming in with really, really
talking
smart
movies
shit.
to each other. They don't even need us weighing in.
Right. I'm sorry that they didn't talk about this thing. And it's like, you said it better than we ever could. Go to tpublic.com for some real nerdy shirts, including the 2 that we just talked about. I tune in next week for Batman Returns. And as always, to commemorate our 200th episode, we want to get all of you in on this.
Yes.
So, the nicknames, which are semi-retired back in the
Speaking of
game,
community.
conditionally.
Yes.
We decided to do a supercut of people sending in clips of themselves saying the nicknames. And we're going to play that now. Thank you so much, Blanky family.
You might know him as Producer Ben.
Producer Ben.
The Ben Deucer.
The Poet Laureate.
The Meat Lover.
The Tiebreaker.
The Fart Detective.
Our finest film critic, ladies and gentlemen.
No one is better at telling you whether a movie is big and wet than the peeper.
Birthday Benny.
Be sure to wish him a hearty hello, Fennel.
Not Professor Crispy, goddammit.
The Fuckmaster.
Dirtbag Benny.
White Hot Benny. Shocking Wake Benny.
The Hodge.
Mr. Positive.
Mr. Positive.
Who happens to be a close personal friend of
Dan Lewis.
The voice of reason. He's apparently Santa Claus.
Some people call him the commish, he has a real firm grasp on things.
And they call you some other names for some other reasons. Because you graduated to certain
very prestigious titles.
Over the course of different miniseries, these include
Producer Ben Kenobi,
Kylo Ben,
Ben Night Shyamalan,
Pence 8 Say Bennything, ...
Ailey Ben with a $.
Warhaz,
Producer Bane,
my personal favorite, Haz Al Ghul,
Ben 19,
The Fennel Maker,
Robo Haz Benglish,
Mr. Ben Credible,
Bomb Boy Haz,
Eat, Drink,
Ben Hosley,
The Hosliday,
Sexual wellness. For
Hey,
men.
I still fuck.
Cut that out.
Keep it in and double it. I say.
Sexual wellness. For
Hey,
men.
I still fuck.
Cut that out.
Keep it in and double it. I say.